Roast beef here with Jigs and freaking Bigs. We got ourselves one hell of a show, guys. It is the end of October. We're coming up to the end of the multi-species scavenger hunt series for the year of 2024, and what a freaking crazy adventure it's been. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we have a specialty show this week. Segment number 2 is dedicated to some crazy, freaky, paranormal, supernatural type activity that some of our listeners and followers have experienced on the water. And not just on the water, but nearby the water, just in their lives like crazy. We have a couple of great stories to dive into as well. We're going to talk about all this stuff. That's coming up in our second segment. And this week, we have Nathaniel Reynolds, owner of Pig Jigs, based in West Virginia and making some amazing, unbelievable jigs of all sizes. And when I say that, I really mean it. You guys got to check this out. It's going to come up in our third segment. We got all kinds of great stuff for you this week on Jigs and Bigs. Trust me, you don't want to go too far. We got more great stuff coming up. Grab yourself something delicious to enjoy, and we'll see you guys in a bit with more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Come on. I'm not really one to buy too much into like supernatural paranormal activity or anything like that right off the rip. But I'll tell you, you guys don't know because what you're hearing is like the finished product and everything. But the shit hit the fan technically over here at the Jigs and Bigs HQ. Like, this has happened once before, but I can't fucking explain it. I cannot explain it. And I'm not saying that because this is the spooky show, you know? I'm just saying, literally, I'm like, what the hell happened? Was there like a static discharge somewhere and like everything just went fucking nuts? Who knows? Am I going to have to change the shoes I'm wearing when I do this? I don't know. It's bizarre. I'm at a loss. Joe, how are you this fine Sunday morning, buddy?
Dude, I'm good. Still waking up, you know. Gonna have to get used to this morning stuff when we, decide to record in the morning. Ran out, grabbed myself a coffee real quick, and here we are.
I got to tell you,
pumped though.
I like recording in the morning. Actually, so let's rewind back to. I have so much this week to talk about, man. I had actually a pretty fishy week.
Okay.
And I have last week's FTG, Ken, the problem angler from the slot limit tournament for October. He's rearing his ugly head again. Not in my world necessarily, but it was brought to my attention by a listener, and I had a conversation this week about this. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I mean, it's been a wild week, and last Sunday was the kickoff of this series that I'm doing at my regular on my regular trivia schedule, where I'm doing a Sunday night event. And man, it was packed. It was awesome. So big shout out and thank you to everybody that showed up. It was really cool. Because for me, this is like a hometown show. It's right in my city, and it's at a great restaurant, the Delaney House. But geographically, it's right in between my two hot spots in Northampton and in Springfield. And it's this convergence of both the teams. And I think I'm going to make it like the grudge match meetup spot, which is bizarre to say because it makes it sound like it's so like gritty and heavy competition. But the Delaney House, and where we are, it's called the Mick. It's the bar area. It's such a nice upscale restaurant. So like I go in with these degenerates that are just clever as fuck, and they're there to show up everybody else, and I love it. I love it. I say degenerates in the nicest way possible. I should clarify that as well.
Of course,
absolutely. But it was just wild. And what's nice is because of this, I'm going to get all my work prep and everything done today. And the best part is that Monday I'm going fishing.
Hell yeah!
This is actually going to be good. It really is. As long as the ice stays off the water.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see it anytime soon. Looking at the extended forecast, I think
hope
we're
you're
good
right.
to go.
I do.
I think we're good to go.
I hope I'll be splashing that boat in December. That's my goal. I would not be mad about taking it out on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Yeah. I mean, mine will be in storage by then.
You can always join me.
Yeah, that's true.
What I mean? You know what I mean, dude?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. There's plenty of room on the application for who the fuck is Joe Brown.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's just they draw down the lakes around me, so it's like you can't even put in if you wanted to. So.
I had a challenge getting out of the spot I was in last night. Yesterday. Okay. I did. I had a challenge getting out of it. Launching was no problem. And I have really started to like the idea of having somebody just, I'll get in the boat and then float off and then zip back up while they go and park the truck. Something like that. Like I really, really, really like that versus, launching on my own. Well, I guess that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world as long as I can pull it off. Man, it was crazy. How was your week for fishy shit? Did you do anything crazy?
No, so my week wasn't fishy at all, man. I brought the boat down for some, scheduled maintenance, and it's still there right now. Told them to take their time with it and whatever. So
there you go.
So my boat's down there right now. And it's good because it gives me the opportunity to do some of the shit that I've been putting off constantly.
Oh yeah.
like the shit around the house and whatnot. But no, man. So it's just been a lot of, I did take some time to kind of, I'm already like excited for next year, like planning phases and kind of looking to see what I have for, baits, what I'm going to, or accessories, what I'm going to need to purchase for next year, whereas line and shit like that. So that's pretty much it.
It's a good time to do it.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that's pretty much it, man. Just I was hoping to get out this weekend. I brought the boat down there and was like, yeah, dude, take your time. Like, I'm in no rush. And then forgot Jeremiah had asked me if we could hit this Connecticut River again this weekend. And I totally forgot. So I felt super bad. But, and what sucks is, next weekend I have training, so I won't be able to fish next weekend.
Right. Oh, that's right. That's the
right.
Northeast Bass.
Yep. Yeah. And then we have the election. So me with my job, there's a good chance I'm not going to be around for a couple weeks. So yeah. Yeah, that's it, man.
That's tough, dude. That is fucking tough. Well, you let me know what weeks that you're gonna miss, and we'll figure it out. We'll get some.
Yeah, we'll figure it out because I just don't know where the hell I'm gonna be.
That's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's no big deal. We'll figure it all out, man. It's crazy. It's a wild ass time of year, dude. This is nuts.
Yeah, dude.
We have we'll just dive into it before I get into my my week. There was only a couple of real fishy outings necessarily, but there's been a lot of planning going on. So one of the things I want to talk about is that we had talked about doing some live events and putting some stuff together. And in the Springfield area, in the Western Mass area, it looks like we're probably not going to have an exclusive holiday party. However, in just after the holiday season wraps up in January, we're playing with some dates to do an event. You remember that pizza party we were talking about doing with DB's Pizza and bringing in, Matt from Klondike Custom Creations and stuff, and kind of so the planning has started for that. We're looking for a venue. We're narrowing down a date. We're bringing in some sponsors and stuff so that I can make this shit actually happen, which is kind of one of the biggest challenge. But there's actually even some progress right there, which is awesome. What else do we have going on? So there was that going. I've got a couple of emails. Then I got a message from a listener, and they had heard last week's show where I had, in the FTG segment, had talked about that guy, Ken, from our slot limit tournament, who had, he had kind of made a little bit of a name for himself, to be perfectly honest. It was a little bit odd, but Ken had, after looking into his profile, I mentioned on the show that he was in a couple of other tournaments, and one of them is from Strike King. They're putting it on. Strike King's putting it on. It's called the Big Bass Fall Frenzy, and this listener is actually in that tournament. And when he heard the segment, was like, I want to check this dude's shit out and see what's up. So he went digging through, and they in the Big Bass Fall Frenzy, and I know this because I had to go and look myself to kind of double check because I was curious. They divide the country up into different areas. So you have a northeast tier, you have a southern tier, you have a Midwest and Western tier, and you go into these spots, and I mean, the guy's nowhere in the money for any of these. He's way, way down there because I think we've established that he sucks at fishing. For the most part. But when you go through his entries, and this is a best of 5, when you go through his best of 5, this motherfucker is getting a limit because he has a duplicate photo in there. I don't mean the same fish. I didn't go and zoom in and count the fish. No, I mean, it's the exact same photo. If you put them side by side and you're which one is different? There's nothing different. It's the exact same photo. Hand position is in the exact same thing. The sunlight's hitting it in exactly the same way. All of the details that would line up to tell somebody who's got any smallest level of training in this would show that, yeah, this is the exact same photo. There's nothing's been different. So he's limiting out by cheating. You fucking dick. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't contact the tournament directors here. I'm like, I'm just curious. So I sent them an email, and it was less than a minute, I had 2 of them reach out to me afterwards and say, hey, thanks so much for this. I basically was just like, hey, we had this guy in one of our tournaments, cause all kinds of problems, is submitting duplicate photos, and he's a cheater and a liar is what he is, long story short. And I said, I flagged him on the app, and I'm doing the things that I can to let other people know, that he's a piece of shit. But also, I don't want him entering my shit anymore. I'm going to boot him immediately. And there is going to be an adjustment in the rule where if somebody is banned or flagged, that'll be in there. It's just going to be part of it, know. And there won't be a refund. I'm not refunding anybody. If you're a moron and you want to get in and bullshit that you've pulled before, I'm not refunding you. You just built the pot up.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just that easy. So I'm like, let's reach out and see what's up. Within seconds, they followed up and they're just like, we really appreciate this. They're like, we'll take a look and we'll obviously handle it from here. And they're like, oh, what podcast is it? And I said, oh, it's called Jigs and Bigs. And you might not want to listen to it around children or in a professional setting unless you don't care about your own reputation or something along those lines. So they're like, sounds good. Thanks for the warning. We'll check it out. So no idea if they loved it or hated it. We might have gotten a 1-star review on Apple Podcasts for who knows, but it is what it is. So that went down this week. And, I toyed around with getting out and doing some fishing. And this is that weird time of year, man, where I really start to lose motivation to fish. I really do. Okay. It's cold. I'm like, do I really want to go and splash the boat to go here? It's tough because there's the schedule change that happens with the school year, which minimizes my time. And then also there's, just the change in the temperatures, the lack of daylight, things like that. So I'm like, I just get late. I feel like I was meant to be like a bear. I should hibernate in in the winters. I really do. If that were feasible and wasn't tremendously unhealthy for you, I'd do it in a second. Just wake up in the spring, jump in the kayak and go. I'd be all about it. But I had, some wild shit that I had gone on this week as far as work and stuff. Well, getting out there a whole bunch. I had one of my accounts tell me that they are interested in adding a second date. This is the second one in this month that wants to add a second date. One of them I just can't make happen. I have to go from one part of the state to another part of the state to do, and I would be out until 2 a.m. that night. It would be ridiculous. There's no way. And then the other one, though, they want to do a brunch thing on Sundays. And I was like, we could do that. And it would be like a rotating schedule. It wouldn't be every single week. But it is a nice little compliment when somebody's like, I make so much more money when you're here. Even paying you, it is better to do it. And Vidal comments, he goes, still 90 in Texas. We're waiting on that cool weather. I'm jealous, man. I am so jealous. That's always the way, though. Everybody up here is just like, oh, it's fall for a long weekend, and then they're like, I've had enough of this shit. I want to go to Florida,
Yeah.
And they know it's going to be fucking March or April before they're out of it again. So it's tough. And, when we hear it's still 90 in Texas, we're like, I wonder how flights are, if it's worth it. Just to soak up a little bit of that, and then come back, I think that's the best. But so it was kind of a wild week. And I struggled a bit to get motivated and go and fish. And my buddy Paul had, I got a story for you. And I texted you the full fucking details of how I delivered this story to my dad. So my buddy Paul had, I think it was parent-teacher conferences or something in scheduled at 1:30 in the afternoon, something like that. He's like, so I've got the morning if you want to get out and fish. I was like, let's do it. Let's send it to Oxbow. Now, Friday, I had to record the interview for this week's show with Nate from Pig Jigs. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm not going to cancel fishing. I want to do this stuff on the water. That's what I'm going to do. So when I went out, I only brought one rod. I only brought my BFS combo. And I was like, yeah, I'll fish for an hour and a half, and then I'll I'll sit down and do the interview, and then I'll bring Paul back up to the launch, and he can take off and do his business, and I'll go back and fish for a couple hours, then go pick up my daughter. And that's exactly what happened. So it was really good, but there's a little interesting thing that happened. So as we're riding out, this was an Oxbow, and Paul and I are riding out to the back end of Oxbow, and I'm going to this area because I know that the cell service is strong. This is the same area where I recorded the interview with Bass Geek.
Yep.
And with Hank, and it was great. I'm like, so cell service is great there. I won't have too many dropouts. I can use Zoom with really no real issues. There is a little bit of lagginess here and there, but it clears up really quick, and I don't think we lost a single word of the interview. It was really good. So I said, we'll just go, we'll do this. So I said, Paul, here's the deal, man. I go, you are front of the boat today. I go, your front casting deck, like I'm going to hand over, here's the remote, here's how you use it. And I go, you just go and fish. Go where you want to go. Go to the spots you want to go, like all that area. Now, Paul is very much he'll find a spot that looks fishy and fish the fuck out of it until it literally says to him, there's no fucking fish here, guy. So I knew that he wasn't going to be like zipping all over the place and it was going to get kind of wonky. So he's like, all right, sounds cool. So I give him the breakdown of how the remote works. I'm like, these are your buttons to go left and right. These are your buttons to increase the speed. The one that's the propeller, that's to start and stop the propeller.
Amazing.
The little bunny icon, if you double tap the bunny, it'll automatically go to full speed. I was like, so if you're like coming in on something shallow and you need to move quick, I'm like, that's a good way to do it. I'm like, the only button that doesn't do anything is this like pointy arrow with the lines on the side. That's for a feature called jogging, which I don't have. Mm-hmm. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And so we're doing our thing and everything's good. And I'm fishing from the back of the boat and nothing's biting. I'm like, whatever, it's fine. So then it gets to the point where I need to set up my gear. So I'm setting up the podcast recording stuff. And as I'm doing that, Paul goes, hey, get this.
Hey, get this, man. I was using the remote and I was like, man, it's weird. It's weird how like when I go to push it to go left, it goes right. And then when I go to push it right, it goes left. And, I was like just about at the point in my mind where I was going to accept the fact that that's how it worked. Like it worked a bit backwards. And then I realized that I was holding the remote upside down.
And the thing is, the only clue it gave him, it is, by the way, printed on there, like in raised letters, it says Minn Kota. But I'll give him that they're in the same color as the plastic of the remote. They're just black. They're just raised letters.
Yeah.
And he goes, I only knew because the bunny was upside down.
The bunny!
Oh! So I told my dad this story the next day, man, and he almost fell out of the fucking boat laughing. It was so I was like, are you serious? The bunny? And it's weird. We were just talking about eyewear, glasses, contacts.
Yeah.
Maybe Paul needs to get a little reevaluation on it. What the fuck? I mean, I give him, but like even it just doesn't make sense ergonomically to have the lanyard come down and then go from the top. Like.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Paul? I've never gone to a parent-teacher conference that baked. No, he was not baked. He was just Paul. That's what he was. I was like, you're holding it upside down. We're fucked. Speaking of fucked, have you seen the video? This was from 2018, but there is video of a boat up against a low-head dam, I think in Grand Rapids. I think. And like the boat is in this like cycle where it's going back and forth, and eventually it catches enough water where it just turns upside down. Have you seen this?
Oh, no.
So a number of people have sent it to me, and like I've seen the reel on Instagram a bunch, and I'm like, it is sketchy, dude. Low-head dams, stay away from them. Stay away from low-head dams.
I did see that. Yep.
Yeah,
I actually did see that.
Sketch central, but I feel like I like if we had them where I fish, Paul would not get the remote to the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
No. We would die. I probably should have put my PFD on when I did the interview just in case. But my God. The interview was really, really great. I left that night. I came home and so I dropped off Paul. And actually, I have to back up a little bit. I did get out and fish earlier this week. I realized we're like middle of the month and I haven't submit a single fish to Fishing Chaos for the scavenger hunt this month. Nothing. And I was like, no shit, I got to do something about this. So I had gone out, and I forget when I submitted these fish necessarily, but I had gone out for 1 cent, and I had got a largemouth. I caught a bunch of largemouth that day. I think this was actually last week that I did it. I caught a largemouth, I caught a crappie, and a sunfish. There was 3 points. I then had gone out and I caught a tiny smallie on the river when I was fishing with Paul. This was last Sunday. So I was sitting pretty in a good spot with 4 points. I was like, I'm on the board. I feel like I've done a little something, and it was a productive weekend. Well, this weekend, my goal, my purpose for Friday and Saturday was just to get on them. And I made a mistake thinking there was a couple of different tournaments going on. Topless Timmy Jakes, friend of the show, longtime listener of the show, is organizing a really, really great event for a friend of his who had passed. It's a college fund for his kids, which is awesome. And it's a tournament going on at Oxbow. It's Saturday, November 11th, and it's actually the Saturday coming up. If you're listening to the show the week that it drops, it's the Saturday coming up. Come on by. I think it's $140 a boat, and it's going to be a great time. It's a good cause. I know we're going to get some locals that are just like, they just hammer that place. So it's basically a donation. I'm going to fish this with my dad. We were talking about it.
Is it the 11th or the 2nd?
It's I thought it was it's Sunday the 3rd, not Saturday.
Third.
Yeah. My mistake. It's Sunday the 3rd. So my dad and I are going to fish it. Initially, I thought that that's what was coming this weekend. And I was like, yeah, so what do I had this plan to go to like sort of a golden corral of multi-species that I've got tucked up my sleeve. And I was like, I could go and do that and it would be really effective, or we can go and do this tournament. And my dad's like, whatever you want to do. And then I realized that the mix up with the tournaments, we ended up going to Plan B. No, we didn't go to Plan B for burgers, but we went to Plan B for the location to pick up as many multi-species as possible. So, Friday I had dropped Paul off. Yeah, we'll back up there. My stories are a fucking mess. I need more coffee. I go back to the launch and I drop Paul off, and I have about an hour and a half. So I go, I'm going to go and I'm going to fish this one spot. And like I said, I've got my BFS combo with me, and that's all. That's all I'm taking with me, just the BFS combo. And I'm throwing around a silver Bronco blade with a 2-inch Kitech Easy Shiner on it. And I'm just basically covering water. I got the trolling motor up nice and high, and I'm zipping around everything that looks fishy, all the wood, everything. I'm just kind of coasting this by, and I'm not getting any bites. But as I start to round around one of these rocky edges, I hook up with a 10-inch yellow perch. I'm like, beautiful. I need one of these. Pop that on the board, send that measurement in, boom. As we round the corner again, I come around and I pick up a 10.5-inch yellow perch. So there's a slight upgrade. Beautiful. Enter that fish in, release it, everything's good. Then something really awesome happened. I had somebody come by in a kayak, and they're like, Bobby? And I was like, yeah. He goes, hey, I'm a listener, man. I love what you do. And I asked him, I was like, what's your name? And he told me. I could barely fucking hear him. So I apologize. I did not get his name. But I love when listeners see me on the water and come and say hello. Like, there is nothing that makes me feel like this has accomplished something than when somebody is just like, hey, I like the thing that you do on the internet. That sounded fucked up. I shouldn't have said that way. They're like, I like the content you create and post and all that shit. That is, I get that. And I appreciate what you're doing. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. So I fished for like about another 15, 20 minutes, and then loaded up the boat and did all my running around and stuff like that. I had to do some fucking crazy ass maneuvers with the boat on the trailer. On the way home, I picked up my daughter. She had missed the bus. She was talking with a teacher from last year, and she missed the bus, and she texted me. She goes, hey, she's like, can you just pick me up to school? I was like, you got it. I'm on my way. I head out. I pick her up, and we start heading back home. I was like, you want to grab a coffee? And she's like, yeah. I was like, I'm feeling a little bougie. Let's go to Starbucks. So we order on our app, and we're on our way up this hill. You probably know the hill over by Ashley Reservoir, where there's a climbing lane.
Oh, yeah.
You know the hill.
Yep.
There was some kind of an accident or something up there. I saw a fire truck. I saw some cops up there, and then a flatbed, like doing all kinds of maneuvers, trying to like get in a position to grab this vehicle. So I'm assuming there was some kind of a crash and it burst into flames or whatever, and something went down. There's traffic everywhere. And I got the boat. It's not like I can break out a 3-way turn here, and I'm in the climbing lane. Like I'm in the rightmost part, so I do have more space. But with the other cars there, nothing's happening. Well, eventually I'm there, and it's like 20 minutes go by, and enough vehicles had moved where I had space in front of me to try. So yeah, I did a 3-point turn in the middle of that fucking road.
Oh, wow.
Fucking boat, dude. I had to sink the back into a bunch of brush and all kinds of shit.
Oh, man.
So then we loop around. It took me over an hour to get this kid home. Like, it was just ridiculous. We get all this stuff done. I'm just fried at this point. I'm like, I am just fried. My dad and I had plans to meet at like 7 a.m. on Saturday and head up the Shears, which is exactly what went down. Now, the wind. Let's talk about the wind. All right. The wind was predicted to be between like 12 and like 16 or 18 miles an hour. And it was supposed to ramp up like basically like 9 a.m. It was just going to boom and start blowing. So I was like, look, we got there and it was just after 8 o'clock. And I told my dad, I was like, look, there's this bay where this wind is going to be blowing into. And I'm like, I just feel like we're going to find fish there. Let's go ahead and try it. Oh, we found fish. Like I was getting follows to the boat. We were getting bit. My father was throwing night crawlers, was getting cleaned out every once in a while. The problem was just like the wind was so insane over there. We were just getting hammered in the face. And the second the clouds would go over, it was freezing. And we're like, all right, I don't know where they're not biting and committing. I go, let's go try this other bank. And this is where I would assume that the fish would not be. But, because they're up against the wind, and the wind is going over them. But there's elevation over there. I'm like, maybe it'll block it a little bit. It'll be better. Dude, no bullshit. We get over to this one spot on this one bank. I take my first cast, and I was throwing one of those finesse bladed jigs from Jackal with one of the J-Bros twin tail grubs on it, and immediately caught a largemouth over there. Now, granted, that is a species that I catch the fewest of at this body of water. And I'm like, okay, cool, fish in the boat. All right, sweet. That's one fish. And I'm like, I've been getting bit on this. Maybe it's a pattern. We'll keep going. So I'm throwing this around. I'm not getting bit, but I'm getting some follows. I got a giant rainbow trout that followed me right to the boat. Like, when I say giant, I mean like questionable breeder.
It's a biggin.
Yeah.
It's a biggin.
I was like, shit. I'm like, damn. I'm like, okay, so it didn't bite, but whatever. We'll see what happens. One of the baits that I had tied on was a white flatworm on a drop shot. And I was like, I'm going to throw this around and see what happens. No bullshit, dude. What was this? A 10 1/4 inch? I think it was a 10 1/4 inch chain pickerel, right? There's a point. Absolutely loving life. I'm like, let's go. So things are good. My dad is struggling, right? Because he is throwing all ultralight stuff. Like he's throwing a split shot rig with like the tiniest little chunk of nightcrawler on like a number 2 size hook, like just super, super tiny. And he's getting bit and like he's just not connecting. And I'm like, what is going on? In fact, I took one of his split shots, and initially when we were in all that wind and I was throwing that drop shot, I was like, I don't have any heavier drop shot weight. So I just added a split shot right over the weight. And I'm like, there you go. We'll get the job done. It definitely did caught a shit ton of weeds, but it got the job done. So now I'm feeling good. I got 2 fish in the boat. Everything's great. Things are happening. So I'm like, all right, wind is it's touch and go. We got a couple of like pop-up showers that come through. Nothing crazy, just sprinkled a little bit and then kind of drifted over us because, again, that's one nice thing about the wind. If it starts raining, it ain't raining for long. It's going to get going. So we are on the water doing our thing, and I'm ripping around that bladed jig again, and I got multiple yellow perch that just choked this thing. Like their top lip went to where the skirt band holds it on the jig. Like, that's how deep they were hitting this thing. And they were just not over my 10.5 from the previous day. So I'm releasing these fish. It's like, it's all good. So we're making our way down. And we saw some other boats that were out there. There were some guys that were out there for exactly the same amount. They must have launched just before us and then came off right after we loaded up. And then there was a couple of other boats, and I saw a twin of the implication. It was a red. It was actually not an identical twin, a fraternal twin, I guess you could call it. It was a Rebel, the same size, maroon. Yep. Dude's, up in his seat, just getting tossed all over the place. He's off a little bit deeper. And my dad is like, was the wind like this when you were at Cayuga? And I was like, oh, it was worse. It was 100% worse. I'm like, this is kind of shitty, but I was like, Cayuga was really, really shitty. Like, just fucking like a cork.
Right.
It was just crazy. So he's like, holy shit, I can't even imagine that, So we're doing our thing, and as we make our way, we're just basically at this point, I'm like, well, let's fish down toward the ramp. We'll call it for like about 12:30 or 1 or something. It'll be what it is. We go along our way, and there's this random patch of pads with like some kind of a laid down tree. Like, it's submerged, but there's a part of it that bends out of the water, kind of offshore. Okay. So I'm like, I'm going to go pop this jig over there. Dude, 22-inch chain pickerel smoked that bladed jig. Smoked it. So that was a nice bump up in overall inches to a nice little upgrade. So I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. So I've got, I think 6 points total. From where I was 6. Yeah, I think it's 6 points total. And I'm feeling good. I'm kind of loving it. I really am. Now, I realize this is the last week of the month, and I'm going to go to a couple of spots and do what I can do this week. The nice thing is I've gotten a lot of things taken care of this week where I have the availability to go out and do some fishing. And now that I've been sending it in some of the colder water and like kind of getting used to this whole deal, that's exactly what I plan to do, is just be out there as often as I can, make it work. I do also want to pre-fish for that tournament a little bit, which works out because that tournament's in the area where I kind of want to be focusing on anyway. So looking forward to it. It's just going to be freaking unbelievable. Now, that is my week as far as that goes. We talked about Ken and his bullshit. We talked about my week overall. Was there something else I needed to talk about? I probably should have filled out the notes section of the show beforehand, so that way I would know off the top of my head. It was, dude, I'm just telling you, it was a good fucking week. And when I realized we were recording today, my initial thought was, this is perfect because now I can take today and do all the prep stuff for work this week, and then Monday's in the clear because normally Monday is my editing day and stuff. But I can do this today before I go to work, and have the show ready to go, and it may even drop a little bit early. Call it a Halloween treat.
Woo!
Oh yeah. I fucking love it. Why don't we do this? Before we do our headlines, let's talk about what's happening in our next segment. The next segment, so we talked about this on the show, that we're doing a series of, or we wanted to do a Halloween special, a spooky special. And we had posted on social media for you guys to submit some scary stories. Ideally, it would be fantastic if they were on the water while you were fishing, something like that. And a couple of these might be. I don't necessarily know. I haven't listened to all of these. Only one of them was just, and I have edited them for audio as far as making sure that they're nice and balanced. But I kind of want to be as green to these as possible. Only one I've listened to, and it was like weeks ago, so I kind of forgot what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. This, you guys delivered. We have a few stories to go through, and we have a couple of our own, and that's coming up in place of just the tip. And we actually don't have an FTG this week, and no gear that we're necessarily going to talk about, but we do have some fishing headlines. And this was actually kind of a pretty good headline-y week. Why don't we go ahead? We'll take it away.
All right. So this week in the headlines, if you guys give me a second, because my computer's deciding not to open them right now. It's only opening my ones from last week. So what the heck is going on right now?
I'm telling you, dude, it's fucking haunted. My audio going to shit right before we start recording, and then this. I'm telling you. And I'm kind of
holy cow,
freaking me out. What the fuck?
What is going on right now?
Fucking.
I just had them open.
It's always the way. It's always the way. God damn it! I'm telling you, shit is fucking going down, and I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it.
Hold on here. It wasn't a super headline heavy. Here we go. All right. So I want to get to assault a little bit because we like to do that here every once in a while.
Oh, yeah,
just
we're close.
You know.
Yeah.
We're not close to this one, but California's new state record swordfish was so huge it wouldn't fit in the boat.
Oh, wow.
I thought we had about a 50-50 chance of getting the fish, but miraculously, everything worked out. San Diego anglers Luke Ofield and Dave White have been close fishing pals for nearly 3 decades. They've learned to rely on each other when chasing even the biggest and meanest saltwater fish. I will tell you right now, Bobby, if I didn't get so goddamn seasick all the goddamn time,
right.
like just like these people that hunt the tuna, the swordfish, it's I mean, me being a bass angler, obviously I love it, but goddamn, that's so cool. Like the sharks and all that crap.
Oh yeah, dude.
So they've learned to rely on each other with chasing even the biggest saltwater fish. On October 20th, the two friends headed offshore to chase giant Pacific swordfish, arguably the strongest of all the billfish. We left about 10 a.m. and ran out in good weather to the 9-mile bank in 1,200 feet of water.
I can't imagine that.
Right. Just a quarter of a mile, no big deal. We set up for 4 deep swordfish baits using whole squid baits on double 11-aught circle hooks.
That's a big fucking hook, dude.
Yeah, dude. with colored strobe lights on the leaders.
That's insane, dude. It's like a whole ass rave, like flashing on its way down.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. That's weird because you hear about the electronic like baits and shit like that, but that's pretty cool.
That's where they.
I've never heard of that before until I read this, but like obviously like kite rigs, stuff like that. But this is anyway. So then we started drifting with the bait down to about 1,000 feet. Nothing happened for several hours, but at 2:20 p.m. they hooked their first and only swordfish, and it was a whopper. Ofield was on the rod, and he fought it using 130-pound stand-up fishing tackle, which included a bent butt rod and Shimano Tiagra 50W reel. He's used this type of gear all his life and is more comfortable with it than other techniques like sitting on a fighting chair. The fish took a bait about 1,000 feet down. I knew right away it was a big one. The owners of Angler's Choice Tackle Shop in San Diego stated, I thought it was only a 300 or 400 pounder. But 3 hours later into a dog deep water fight, Ofield realized a swordfish was different than others he'd hooked. The fish stayed around 200 feet, where Ofield thinks he was a thermocline. It was the thermocline that the fish preferred. It would circle their boat, and then as soon as Ofield would bring it to the surface, the fish would dive deep and circle again. White, the friend, meanwhile, stayed on the helm the whole time. Without Dave's great skills running his boat and maneuvering it to keep the fish from tangling in the boat, we never had a chance to land the swordfish, says Ofield. That was something I kind of ran into in the St. Lawrence River with Zach this past week.
Yeah?
Dude. They seemed to, like, a few of the fish I caught seemed, because, obviously we're in spot lock the whole time.
Yeah.
So a lot of these fish seem to just want to go straight to the front of the boat where the friggin'
trolling motor's at.
So I had to hurry up and like take it off spot lock, and then I'm fighting it, and then I got to watch where we're drifting to. And so anyway, the billfish never jumped during the battle, but 3 hours into the fight, 3 hours, dude. 3 hours. When we have one for 3 minutes, we're like, oh man, that was
exhilarating. My heart is beating out of my chest.
But 3 hours into the fight, it finally came near the surface. It was down about 20 feet in clear water and swam by us slowly. Just checking us out, Ofield says, the stare from a big swordfish is unsettling, with that big eye and long and powerful bill. They're just impressive. Oldfield compares the swordfish stare to how famed writer Robert Rourke described Cape Buffalo.
Yeah.
The giant swordfish then went back to diving and circling the boat. Did this dozens of times over the next 2 hours.
Fuck me.
Holy shit, dude. He put in an 8-hour shift to fighting this fish, bro.
He did. Oh, my God.
A work shift. Finally, roughly 5 hours into the ordeal, the fish, like the anglers, began to tire. Around 7 p.m., dude, this shit started at 2 o'clock. Oldfield decided he put maximum pressure on the fish and he's just going to try to bring it close to the boat. And with his reels drag maxed out at 49 pounds, White got the boat in position to gaff the fish. Unfortunately, Oldfield had forgotten his oversized gaff. That's a gaff in its own.
It is.
The same one they used for big tuna and marlin. Yep. All they had were a pair of smaller flying gaffs with 1/4-inch ropes. I thought we had about a 50-50 chance of getting the fish, but miraculously everything worked out. Dave left the boat controls and put a flying gaff into the lower part of the fish and turned the sword over. That disorients them. At that point, Oldfield set his rod down as he could, hit the fish with another flying gaff. Their plan was then to haul the swordfish into the boat's stern swim platform, but the fish was so huge they could only fit its head into the boat.
So the tail is flapping out.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, my fucking God, dude.
So that means they just had to keep that swim platform, like that door, just open the whole time.
Yeah.
We tied the fish off to the boat's cleats with ropes and put a tail rope on it. But it was still very much alive. I knew we had to kill it fast or we might lose it. I decided to stab it in the heart with a knife. That did the trick. Jesus Christ. Dude.
That did the trick.
And it bled out very fast and died. Oh, that's fucked up. By then it was fully dark. After all the commotion loading the swordfish, there was lots of blood in the water. And Oldfield was worried about sharks coming to claim their prize. Fortunately, no sharks appeared, just a lone seal that came up to inspect their catch. With the giant swordfish tied to the boat, they had to run at minimum speed, so it took at least 2 hours to get back to the marina.
Oh my God.
Once there, they put the fish on certified scale. The local marlin club, which registered 663.8 pounds.
Holy shit.
That weight crushes the current California sword record of 520-pounder that was caught off San Diego last year. Oldfield plans to submit all the required paperwork to the state this week.
And I hope they had swordfish steaks that night. Fucking 3 inches, dude.
Bro. And I mean, honestly, I mean, it doesn't mention it here. They probably fucking sold it right at the dock.
Oh, I'm sure that they did.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
They made fucking bank.
Even that one time that my dad caught a decent-sized tuna back years ago, he had people just at the, dock just wanting to throw him cash. So
it's crazy, dude. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, you can flip those fish so fast and people will just take them. You get a good quality one like that. And swordfish is funny. For a long time, you heard from people a lot of the times that were like, oh, yeah, you never order swordfish. Shit like that. I'll tell you what, like, swordfish is one of the few fish that my wife is like, oh, I'm down for that. And
okay.
I think it's because it generally more often than not, at least the way that I've had it, it's been staked out and it cooks up really, really nice on a grill.
Yeah. It does. I agree.
Actually, I'll bet you I can fucking do some crazy swordfish stuff on my Blackstone.
Yeah.
I'll bet you that'd be pretty nice, like a nice sear.
I've done, so I didn't do it. My dad brought some tuna over and he did it on our Blackstone like last year. It was great. It was just like quick sear on each side and then we just dipped it in some soy sauce.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's fucking cool. Well, congratulations, guys. You fucking definitely put the work in.
Dude, crazy. And like crazy.
Those billfish scare the shit out of me. Cause like you've seen videos where like one is like running right at the boat. And there's a video where like a woman gets totally just straight impaled.
Yep.
And I'm like, how do you even handle that? Like, I would think you grab the bill to control it so it's not going crazy.
Yeah.
But if you grab the body, that's just like fucking the bill's going all over the place.
On a 600-pound fish,
it doesn't matter.
You can't control that fucking thing.
You stab it in the heart. That's what you do.
Let it bleed out. Yeah. Yep. Because, dude, these things are literally just pure piss missiles, dude. They're just pure muscle.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. They're just pure muscle. I mean, anything with that V-tail, dude, they're gonna fuck you up. They are so fast.
Super agile. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the only headline this week.
That's a good one though.
Yeah, it's a good one. Now I'm excited to get into the spoopy stuff.
Let's go ahead and we'll do that. We're going to take a short break, guys. We're going to get right back into some spooky stuff. We've got stories to tell. We've got listener stories to tell. It's going to be a good one. Don't go too far. We got much more coming up just after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. All right, guys, it is the week of Halloween, and because it's the week of Halloween, we have some spooky shit to talk about. Like we mentioned before, a number of weeks ago, we had started talking about this idea, and we kind of put it out there, and a few of you did come through with some pretty good stories that you wanted to share with us. And we've kind of opened it up. Initially, we want to talk about stuff that happened on the water. Not everybody's got those stories that happen on the water, but it seems like a lot of people have ones that happen nearby the water, and that's good enough for us. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to take a listen to a couple of stories from our jig heads, and so we'll play one, we'll come back, and we'll kind of talk about it, give some details and stuff, and then on the flip side of that, we have our own stories that we're going to share after all of this stuff. So let's go ahead. We'll get started with our first one. This is everybody's favorite Ginger Chode that called in with this one, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hey guys, it's your favorite Ginger Chode down here in Southern Rhode Island, Pat Martin, with a little paranormal story or an encounter I had when I was young for Halloween. Not fishing related, but I was probably about 7, 8 years old, and my parents and I were coming back from dinner, and our house is on a straight section of road with just an open lot, dirt lot across from it at the time, and so we are pulling into the driveway, and there's somebody passed out with a bicycle on the edge of the driveway that my dad had to swerve to avoid running over. And so we pull up probably 40, 50 feet to the parking spot, and my dad walks down to the end of the driveway, and as we go inside, and goes down, and the guy is gone, bike and everything, and there's nowhere really for him to disappear to. Especially if he's passed out drunk, and he even looked over the stone wall at the edge of the dirt lot, giant dirt lot across from us. Nothing. So he comes in, he calls the local police dispatcher, and it was dispatcher on duty was, a local older guy. And my dad explained to him what happened. And the dispatcher said, "Oh, that sounds like the ghost of old so-and-so. He was a local drunk that worked at the mill in the, turn of the century, early 1900s, whatever. And he used to get drunk and ride his bicycle home and would often pass out on the side of the road and stuff." So, that was, me and my parents both saw it. The guy just vanished out of thin air. There was nowhere for him to go. And according to the dispatcher, that's probably what we saw. And he lived in there was a barn in the woods behind our house connected to another property that I guess he lived in back then. So that's my experience with seeing the paranormal. So hope you guys have a great Halloween, and talk to you soon. Later.
That's freaky. That's really freaky, especially like that he called the cop, the dispatcher knew.
So it's funny. So like, it's like one of those classic like stories you hear about going down the highway and seeing like the person. So it could, like, the dispatcher was probably either like, that's a legitimate story that follows that, you know, that description, or they're like, "Oh my God, I don't feel like sending and dealing with a drunk dude tonight." Yeah. So like, "Oh yeah, that's the story of old drunk Ted from," or it's like a guy that they do deal with all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm not in the mood for this tonight."
Like, he's at his old thing. He got in the old 100 proof SoCo again.
Yeah,
not dealing with him. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if the guy was legitimately, like, was actually a person, was passed out on the ground with a bike on top of him, it sounds like from the time it took to where they saw him to where they stopped, you would have seen him riding away, you know, or something like that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. That's kind of creepy. Although maybe we do a live recording at that barn if it still stands. Pat, what do you say?
Oh my God, I would be all in for that.
Oh man, yeah, that shit fucking is kind of creepy. Especially when there is like a story. And God, I can't wait to tell you guys mine. There's 3 wild ass fucking things about this one house that are gonna fucking melt minds. So this next one is a little bit longer. This one comes in from one of our jig heads, and it happens in Massachusetts. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this one here.
Hey guys, this is one of your jig heads calling in for Schmeichler with a spooky story. So this story takes place in your home state of Massachusetts, in Groton, and it doesn't take place on the water or while I was fishing, but I thought I would share it because the location's close to you. I guess the water element is that this is a poltergeist story, and the ghost allegedly became a ghost because he had jumped off a bridge and drowned. And then also there's a bit of debauchery at the end that may be fitting for your podcast. So anyways, way back, I did used to practice Ouija board. I don't do that anymore. I've learned my lesson, but back then I was doing Ouija board. I was at a friend's house and we had come in contact with a spirit, and he said his name is Hugh. He had spelt it out, H-E-G-H, and nothing really happened after that. Nothing weird after. So, but shortly after, I had met up with another friend, a mutual friend of the girlfriend I had done the Ouija board with, and I had told her that, we had done the Ouija board. We contacted a spirit. He said his name was Hugh. And she was like, "Oh, that's kind of weird because my ghost, his name is Hugh. And she went on to tell me that the house she was living in, she basically had grown up in since being very, very young. And she had had a playmate that turned out to be a ghost, but his name is Hugh. And she had never thought it weird growing up as a young child playing with a ghost, but in hindsight, I guess that was super weird. And I kind of questioned it, but I don't know. She seemed legit, and you don't know with these things. So anyways, I ended up going over to her house, and we were going to do some ghost hunting. And I remember some really freaky things happening to start. Like, one, we had been in her room. Everything was fine. We had left the room to go do something. I don't know, go for a walk, whatever. We came back and her room was totaled. Like, there were clothes everywhere. The bedding was everywhere. Things were knocked over. Yeah, that could be explained a million different ways. I'm just throwing it in there. And then another thing was knocking. And she had said her ghost knew Morse code. So we would try to communicate with him, Hugh, through Morse code. We had a little chart that showed short and long knocks for communication, and we would do that on the wall. And I kid you not, when we would do that, knock on the wall, like, how are you? Up in the attic, directly above her, we would hear knocking. There was knocking back. And on top of that, there was an attic door right outside of her bedroom door, and we heard it like open and slam shut. And it was one of those doors. It was the kind of attic door that pulls out of the ceiling. So we clearly heard like the springs opening and it slamming back. And then the other thing was she had a picture of the Last Supper on her wall, which seems odd, but she was brought up pretty religious from what I saw. She went to Sunday school, church every Sunday. And anyway, she had this picture of the Last Supper, but it was done in metal. So if you can remember, this kind of picture is like a super heavy duty tinfoil, and it was embossed over a shape. And so it was like a 2D relief type picture, all in metal. And it was of the Last Supper. And we would be hearing scratching noises coming from behind this picture. Like, her room would be quiet. We'd be standing there, and then you'd hear like, it's like, oh man, what in the world? And it was her Last Supper picture, and we would pull it up the wall. And of course, nothing was behind it. It was a normal wall. And then, so that was very weird. But to get weirder, again, her room there was on the second floor. And we decided to go downstairs. And we went down and we saw her sister passed out on the couch. And back then, I was just like starting to experiment with things, and that included cigarettes. And we saw a pack of butts on the table next to the sister. So my friend and I were like, oh man, all right, let's like take a butt and go smoke it. So we did. We took a cigarette out of the pack. We went to the room next door, which was the dining room, and we sat at the dining room table and we lit the butt up, and we got so flipping high, and I have no idea why. Like, I'm still trying to figure that out to this day. Like, was the cigarette laced? Is there a thing, a paranormal high? I've not heard of that, and I honestly don't believe in that. But we were pretty buzzed. And I need to mention the sister that was sleeping, possibly passed out on the couch. She was a police officer, and she was a lot older than my friend. She was in full uniform, and I clearly remember coming down the stairs and seeing her in uniform, sleeping on the couch with that pack of buds. So we pulled one. Anyways, so we smoked it. We're sitting at the dining room table, and we decided to start talking with our ghosts. And we're like, Hugh, turn out the light. Hugh, turn out the light. And the room went dark, like the lights went off. And I kind of remember being like, whoa, that's not right. And I got up to turn the lights back on, but I clearly remember the switch was still in the on position. I had to, turn the switch down, then push it up to get it to come back on. And then we were like, Hugh, shut the door. Hugh, shut the door. And that's because adjacent to the dining room where we were sitting was a bathroom, and the door was open. So when we said, Hugh, shut the door just flipping slammed shut. I am not kidding. I cannot explain it. It slammed shut. And we were pretty freaked out. And then my friend just started, she was sitting in the chair at the table, and she started kind of leaning forward super fast, like hitting the table. And then she would lean way back, and then she'd bam, slam into the table, go back, forward, back. And she started saying, stop. And I was like, whoa, what is going on? What are you doing? And she just said, well, Hugh's pushing me. And it was such chaos, like her slamming into the table, the door slamming shut, the lights going out, and then having to turn them back on. It was craziness. And I just remember the sister waking up and going, oh, what's going on here? And everything kind of settled down. And I know that all sounds crazy and could be questionable, but a lot of it I know was so paranormal. I've had a lot of experience, and that one like topped it, that craziness. But I hope you can use this story in your October spookiness.
That sounds exactly like a poltergeist right there. The physical pushing and all that shit. Like, it really does. I do think that maybe the cop sister maybe picked up that pack of cigarettes from somebody else, and maybe they had something else in them. Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, I understand the first time as a kid, like the first time I ever experimented with tobacco, it was chewing tobacco, right?
Yeah.
It does give you a little bit of a buzz, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Beyond that, like, I don't think it would be anything that crazy. I have a feeling she was like, pick these up off of somebody who was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I got to bring them to the station or submit them for evidence or whatever, And so I think there was something going on there. It's weird, man. Like, the whole attic stuff, like, I'll tell you. So Ouija boards, I put very little stock into Ouija boards. I really
of
do.
course. Yeah, of course.
Mainly because like the whole like is it Parker Brothers or Milton Bradley that makes one as a game.
Sure.
Like when I was a kid, like I remember with my cousin specifically playing around with these, and there was this. And this is totally not fucking paranormal or anything, but this is just a stupid story. So I had this one cousin who was older than me, right? Adam. And I thought he was the fucking coolest guy. He was a dude that skated. He played guitar and shit. He was a few years older than me, and I was always chasing him around to fucking do what he was doing. And then, but I was a fucking weird kid, like, you know, and I can remember like when I must have been like 6 and I was like, hey, you know, Adam, when you use a real Ouija board, weird things can happen. And I acted out like something was choking me or some shit like that. And I don't know why, but that stuck for years. And it was kind of like this inside joke. Like I can remember being at one of my cousin's weddings and he was actually there. He doesn't come around a whole lot. He doesn't do much with the family, but so when I do get to see him, it's kind of a treat. And he was at this wedding and immediately, like, this is the first time my wife Holly had ever met him. And I mean, we're just laughing and joking and doing this fucking stupid Ouija board thing and like faking like we're choking and shit like that. Just fucking stupid. No bullshit. I had gotten together for Christmas with my family, and someone was like, oh, yeah, Adam's working at this place. And I happened to be going by randomly, and he hadn't seen me with, like, my beard and everything. And so I go walking in, and I knew he wasn't going to recognize me. I mean, yes, I looked just like my father, and that should have tipped him off right away. But I was wearing a hat, and I think I was even wearing my glasses. He did not recognize me at all. And I went up. He's like, oh, how you doing tonight? I was like, I'm doing pretty good. I was like, you know what they say? When you use a real Ouija board, weird things can happen. I did the same fucking thing. And he was like, holy fuck, Rob? He hadn't seen me in forever. Like the entire pandemic had gone by. It was like that. Yeah. So I was like, holy fuck. So that's my Ouija board thing. But that's beyond it. That was a wild fucking story, though. And the
biggest thing I got from that story, well, not the biggest thing, but when she said like, oh, you know, her friend as a kid had a ghost that she played with, you know, so not too weird. No, that's weird.
That's weird.
That's weird. That's weird.
That's weird. Oh man. Yeah, that is freaking absolutely crazy. Absolutely bananas. I'm going to tell you guys so we initially talked about this, and this was a story that when it came in, I was really hoping that this is going to work. The guy I wanted to have on the co-host for this segment is Steve from Ghost Hunters.
Oh,
yeah, I know Steve personally.
I didn't know you knew Steve.
Yeah, I know Steve personally. So Steve, I initially know from playing drums, and he used to play in a handful of bands in this area. Yeah. One of them, Perpetual Doom, was the death metal band he was in for a while, and I mean, the dude is just an absolute monster. Nicest guy in the world too. Yeah. He also played in this blues band that after he had gotten busy with, I had actually filled in for like a few months, done a handful of practices. They were trying to get some shows together that just never panned out, called Po' Boy and the Red Hats. And it was, I mean, so Steve was the guy I was trying to get on to have this, but I think he would have had a field day with this story. I really do. It was we were friends for a handful of years, and then somebody had told me like they had hired him to go through their house and like give like his opinion on paranormal activity, and I was like, shut the fuck up, really? And then from then on I was like, is Steve fucking psychic? Like, what the fuck? and then here's the other thing that's bad. At one time or another, Steve did work as a cop, and this plays into my next story. So I had gone to go see Po' Boy at this bar that was nearby my buddy Jimmy's house. This is going to come into play, the Jimmy's house, into the story. And Jimmy and I, this year that I was there, man, Jimmy and I were just getting absolutely wrecked. This is pre-children, everything else, the whole 9 yards. And we had decided to go down to this local bar that Terry, the singer of Po' Boy, had bought in the town where my buddy Jimmy lived. And I had lived for a year. I moved into his house when he inherited it. So we go down there, and Jimmy and I are like smoking a doobie out in the parking lot, right? In my truck. And who comes walking by but Steve? I don't think he was in uniform, but I think he held up his badge or something. And I was like, I fucking nearly shit my pants, dude. I nearly shit my fucking pants. Oh man. But yeah, I was hoping it was going to be, he'd be available to do it. But I know he just did a live show in like Georgia this past week. Yeah. So yeah, I was like, probably not going to be able to make it happen, but that's what I was hoping to make happen. So we do have one more story before ours. And it is, this one comes from Binya. Let's go ahead and check this one out. This one's short too. It's only a couple minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Bobby and Joe. I finally getting around to recording the spooky story that I told Bobby about, but a little bit of a background on this story. So when I was a kid, my grandparents owned a bunch of woodland behind the house, and there was actually a pond on the opposite side of our property line where a guy had actually murdered his wife. It was always suspected that he murdered her in the pond by pushing her in and drowning her. And there was a lot of local lore about this place being haunted. They never actually found the body. So when I was a kid, I used to go out there and we would ride four-wheelers out to this spot that we could actually walk down a bank, and then we could actually bank fish the local lake on the other side. Well, there was a night on the way home that I got fishing really, really late. Normally, we never went through there at dark because the four-wheeler we had didn't have headlights. So we were driving home one night, me and my cousin, coming back from a pretty successful day of fishing. And there's this, I don't know how to explain it other than this weird feeling overtook me. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. And it sounded like someone was screaming. And we stopped the four-wheeler. We were looking around. We couldn't really see anything. It was pitch black. And we saw, the only way I could describe it is weird colors coming from that same pond that I referenced earlier. And to this day, I have never gone back into those woods at night. But it was just a really weird, sounded like screaming, saw some weird lights, and we just flew out of there with the four-wheeler and never went back. So I thought you guys might like that story. I've got a couple more I might send later, but that's definitely the spookiest of all the stories that I have.
Dude, that's all right. So that's fucking creepy shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That glowing in the water, that relates to the story I'm going to fucking tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's some wild shit. And like those odd feelings where you're just like, something's not fucking right. I'm being watched or something. Like,
yeah. I've
had those instances in the kayak, in specific bodies of water that were nearby. Like a big one is that October Mountain National Forest, that October Mountain State Park. Like that region is known for a lot of like crazy shit. And I've been in the kayak in the water, and I'm like, and Sean has been with me, and he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, don't get too close to the bank. He goes, I don't know what the fuck is around in these areas, but there's a lot of fucking reputation. So I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. We'll just make a little bit longer casts, something like that. But yeah, where you get those like, what the fuck? Like sometimes he's just too quiet.
Yeah.
That kind of shit. Yeah. And then he just fucking run right off and freak you right the fuck out. That's fucking wild, dude. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, man. So
you want to go first? You want me to go first?
The one I've got is really fucked up.
All right, you go second. Then.
All right, I'll go second. It's really fucked up.
So I've got a couple. We'll start with this one first. So I was down in training for the military down in Missouri for a few months.
Yep.
And in that process, I was down there for like Halloween time and whatnot. And there's a few friends I had that I had made down there, and they said, hey, let's take the ride to, they do these tours and stuff at the the Missouri State Penitentiary, which has been on all like the ghost shows and all that stuff.
Yep.
So I was like, they kind of were like taking it as like a joke, whereas like me is like I have like a pretty good interest in these topics, to where I was actually like, oh yeah, I'm excited. Let's go do this. So we go there. Place is wild, by the way, but they have like tour groups of like 10. So there's a group in front of us, and so we're waiting and whatnot. And we finally go out there, and our tour guide's like, yeah, she's like, you know, it was more of like a tour of the prison itself. And then, you know, she's like, you know, this place is said to be very, very haunted. Like, stuff does happen on the tours all the time and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and that's what I was interested in. And so we're in one of the cell blocks. Me and my buddy Josh, we were kind of like standing there, and you know, it's they keep it pitch dark the whole time. Like it's pretty much pitch dark. There's like some ambient lighting and whatnot. And she's like, you know, a big thing that people see is like shadows, blah, 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 blah. And we're sitting there standing, listening to her. And behind her, I mean, it's probably, you know, 70 yards of just cell block, like straight cell block, straight down. And, you know, we're the only people like in and around the prison, like our tour guide and us. So it was a group of about 10 people. And him and I are like listening to her, or I'm listening to her looking. And about right towards the end of the cell block, we just see like a shadow just like walk by.
Yeah.
And like it and I you know, I didn't say anything. I just like kind of I was just like, holy shit. Like I just had like the face, and I look over, and Josh just kind of got like the same face.
Yep.
And then
we're kind of like freaky.
We're kind of in the front of the group, and like, you know, the tour guide's still talking. Then she stops. She goes, what'd you see? She's like, did you guys see something? We tell her. She's like, oh yeah, that's like normal. Like you see that stuff all the time. Like, and so yeah, that was the first one. That was like kind of like, you know, just put the hairs on the back of my neck a little bit. The other one I have is, so let me tell you a little bit about where I live. So I live in the Brookfields. A lot of historic stuff has happened in the Brookfields. Oh, yeah. From the King James War, like back in the day with like the local Native Americans, stuff like that. And my property, you know, I have a decent, you know, some acres and stuff like that. But the edge of my property is marked by an old rail trail. The rails aren't there anymore. But, you know, there was an old factory that they used to kind of down the trail about, you know, a quarter mile from my house that they used to dump coal, whatever. And there was a lot of like encampments, like families would like in the back of my property. There used to be a lot of like encampments, stuff like that, like back in like the early mid 1800s. So there has been a couple instances, and the most recent one was Meg and I were laying in bed, and we're just laying there. And this is pre Emma. This was pre Emma, and the boys were with their dad. So it was just Meg and I and my dog, and we're laying there, and we start hearing, and this is like, it's like midnight, and like I live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Okay.
We start hearing kids laughing, like outside our house. And I'm like, and I just kind of like get, like, it's dark in our room. I just kind of like sit up a little bit, and I look over to her, and she's just like,
what the fuck?
What the fuck is that? I was like, I don't fucking know. So like it only happened once. And so I go out, I like grab the flashlight, and I'm looking, and nothing. And, dude, that has since happened probably, and it's quick. It's always very quick. It's since happened maybe like 2 or 3 times since then.
Really?
And so, yeah. And it's like, but now it's like, it just sounds like 1 or 2 kids, just like a quick laughing spell, like in the distance. And, yeah, dude, it's wild. It hasn't happened probably like 2 years that we've noticed, but yeah, dude, it's so like I've tried to push into like the history of my property and stuff, and there's a little bit. There was so I built my house in 2003, but back in like, we had those encampments back there back in the day. Which, you know, I another hobby that I have is I do go metal detecting for like relics and stuff. So I've gone back there, trying to look for some shit, and you know, all I ever find is like the railroad tie, the old railroad ties, or like pegs or bolts or whatever. And but yeah, so we've looked in the history. It's like, but the big thing is like the big King James War, where like basically the Quabog plantation was like just massacred by local Native Americans. Like that happened just like a couple miles from my house. The encampments, obviously, I've done research with like through the town and stuff, and that like it was basically like the railroad employees would literally just set up like tents with like their families and shit, like back in like basically where my property is. Yeah, so that's a creepy thing that's happened. I mean, again, not fishing related or anything like that, but yeah, that's probably like the creepiest things I've had happen to me, like personally. It's like, so it's so I don't tell my kids that, because if I tell my kids those stories, they'll never go outside ever again.
Oh, for sure, yeah, they're gonna be like, what the actual?
So they don't know about that stuff. They know about like the history and stuff. Sure. And they have their own metal detectors. They're always out there looking for shit. But yeah. That's creepy, spooky stories.
That's pretty fucking good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That is pretty fucking good, man. And I don't think, like, if I heard laughing in the distance like that, God, especially if I was fucking ripped and I was listening to, oh my God.
We still like bring it up every once in a while, like, wow, we haven't heard that in like a while. Because it was like, when it happened once, it was like, oh, maybe we're a little like crazy, like we weren't even like maybe drinking,
imagining something, you know?
Yeah, and then it happened a couple more times, and yeah, it's weird, man.
So, and it's funny because this that I'm about to tell you, my buddy Jimmy and I have shared this story back and forth, like, can you believe this shit happened? And it's like, there was one instance, but there were many things in this situation. And this isn't fishing related, but it is lake related. I've talked about on the show before that there was a time where in my life for a year I lived on a lake. This nice little house right on the lake. My best friend in life, Jimmy, had inherited this house from his grandparents. And it was, I mean, this thing was just nuts. Now, when Jimmy had inherited the house, like it was full of like a bunch of like family stuff. And he was like, he was like, you know, I'm not sure what the fuck I can do with this. Like, he went through some shit with his family even when he was inheriting the house. So like, no, that house can't go to him. He's too irresponsible or whatever. But he was written in the will to say his grandparents basically had raised him. You know, so this is the house he grew up in, so they wanted to leave it to him. Well, there's all this random stuff in there. And to paint the picture of to like the what that year was like, I've got to kind of dive a little bit into it. So when I moved in, Jimmy was just like, man, he's like, this is awesome. This is going to be great. You know, he goes, there's a couple things that are crazy. He goes, when we get thunderstorms up here, they're fucking crazy. So he's like, just keep that shit in mind. He goes, and you're going to hear a lot of stories about some wild shit that's happened around the lake, involving UFOs, involving fucking all kinds of like paranormal, supernatural kind of shit. And I'm like, really? I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. And, you know, he was not lying. Like during the thunderstorms and shit, like it would get fucking crazy. There were times where I saw some fucking shit glowing in the water. Which was fucking weird. And I was like, I didn't really think anything of it so much because I'm like, he told me there's a reputation for weird shit here. I'm just chalking it up to whatever. Come to find out, as we were talking about one night, like this was at a point in my life where Bobby Roast Beef was doing a lot of fucking drugs. You know what I mean? All pretty much the same ones that I do right now, but just way more of them. And all the time. And I was drinking way more then than I ever did now. And we would, you know, and Jimmy, it was the same fucking thing. I mean, it was a party at that place all the time. And so we had, you know, there was this one night where, okay, so again, paint the picture, all right? This house is full of these weird items, collectibles, shit like that. Little Campbell's Kids collectibles, things like that. We would decorate the living room for Halloween by taking the Campbell Kids and making like a peep show around and putting up signage that said like 5-cent show. Like they're watching a couple of the Campbell, like it was fucked up. We did fucked up shit in this place. In the bottom floor of the house had a large living room area, and then the kitchen and bathroom were on the opposite side of the house. The stairway came down, but it was all open. There were multiple doors to go into the living room. And on one of the sides of the door, the side by the kitchen, there was an old Hammond organ, like a church organ, right? Sitting right there. And what Jimmy and I would do is we would take it, because he was like, I don't want to get rid of any of the stuff here and then have it like blow up in my face. So he's like, we're going to fucking decorate it with it. Jimmy's grandparents, super Irish Catholic. You know what I mean? Like little Jesus nightlights in the hallway by the stairwell. We would there was a little boom box that we hid in the bathroom that was an auto reverse tape deck. And we had a reading of the rosary on cassette that played constantly at like just below a whisper's volume. So if you were in the bathroom doing your business, you would hear,
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is...
You know what I'm saying? As you were doing your business. God. Like we just because we wanted to fuck with people, and we were right in the head. You know what I mean? On this Hammond organ, there was a picture of JFK hanging on the wall. There was, in the basement, we found this old plaster Virgin Mary, like a statue that you would put in a garden or something like that. You know what I mean? Or in like some kind of landscaping. And we put that right on top of the Hammond organ with a bunch of Todd McFarlane era Venom and Spider-Man fucking action figures. This is what my fucking mid-20s were like, dude. It was fucking like 22 years ago. So... we're doing it, you know, this is the place that we lived in. If somebody was at our house and they went into the bathroom, it wasn't bad enough that the rosary was playing. There was a small plastic Santa Claus that was probably about 2.5 feet high that we would keep in a closet near the bathroom, and we would put it in front of the door. So as soon as they opened the door, Santa was just looking up at you like, hi. It's just the shit that we did.
Yeah.
Jimmy used to fuck with me all the time. And what he would do is, this is, again, it was 20-something years ago. This is before, like, cell phones were getting to be everywhere, but they weren't what they are now. And people still had landlines regularly. And on a landline, what you could do is pick it up and leave it off the hook. And you would hear the dial tone that would be on the receiver. But eventually it would stop, and it would start doing this thing. And what he would do is he would go and he would take the phone off the hook and put it up on top. And like 15 minutes, half an hour later, something like that, he'd go back and check it. And when he heard it going, what he would do is he just would leave it off to the side, like right on top where he would do. And then he would be like, oh, hey, man, your mom just called. And he would hand it to me. And it would just be, and I would be off my fucking tree. You know what I mean? Face melting right off. And I'd be like, Jimmy, what are you doing? I'd hang up the phone. Everything was fine. There was this one moment on this one day where I had been, I think we had made our own edibles, and we didn't know exactly what we were doing. We made them way stronger than they needed to be. And when they hit. I mean, they hit, you know? And we just all afternoon, it was like a Saturday night, you know, but that entire afternoon was just bong hit after bong hit after bong hit, mixing cocktails, like just absolutely a mess. And we're just watching like concert DVDs and shit, just hanging out. We had nothing to do. There's a point where Jimmy does this, hey, it's your mom on the phone. And I go and I grab it and it's and I go and I fucking hang the phone up. I was like, Jimmy, what the fuck? I turn around and he's holding in front of me, like about like abdomen level. He's holding the Virgin Mary statue. And he goes, oh, here, this is a gift for you. And I grab it. And as both of our hands are on it, this fucking statue, I shit you not, turned into powder in front of us. It didn't crumble into plaster or like chunks or anything like that. It turned into like cornstarch. It just dissolved.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
We both went to our respective rooms and fucking hid until the next morning.
Didn't even talk to each other.
We didn't talk until about 7 o'clock the next morning when we vacuumed her. It was so fucked up, dude. And to this day, it's been 20 years, 22 years. We still talk about it in perfect detail. And we'll be on the water, and he's like, we were on the Swift, and he was like, dude, can you believe that Virgin Mary statue just literally crumbled into, and what it was like, it wasn't even that like it just fell apart, like it was like degrading or something, like it was the plaster. It was the fact that literally every single particle of it turned into powder, and it was just like, it didn't even fall and crumble and make noise when it hit the floor. It was like, it just melted, and we're like, I'll see you in the morning. Bye. It was just fucking it, man.
Time for bed.
I was like, all right, that's it. I feel like at that moment I was, and I'll ask him next time I see him, but we were stone cold sober in that moment. Like, it had taken everything out of us. Like, well, fuck. we just fucking called it. Another thing about this lake that is crazy is apparently in like the late 70s or maybe like the early 80s, there was a woman who had photographic evidence of like either a UFO over the lake or something coming out of the lake or something like that. Because this is a private lake. There's no public access. And something weird going on. And within like weeks of her like starting to talk about shit, like there were some federal agents that showed up and seized all of her camera gear and all of her film. And when I heard about that, I was like, that's fucking crazy. And then I heard about it from a neighbor. So it's not like it was Jimmy just fucking with me. I heard about it from a neighbor down the street, and I was like, yeah. And I think I brought up the thunderstorms, and they're like, oh yeah, some crazy shit happens around here, man. They're like, especially this house over here. They're like, she had all of her camera shit taken in like the early 80s, because she had photographic evidence of something happening, and they fucking came and took everything. I have a feeling this is back in the day when it was like I mean, unless she had a dark room on her own when they developed the stuff, who knows? Somebody might have reported something. Who the fuck knows? Fucking bizarre.
Wild, dude.
So yeah, the fucking Virgin Mary melted and
that. Oh, that's like some. I don't even know, dude.
I know. And look, I want you guys to understand. I know that there's some people that listen to our show that are religious folks, and I understand. Number one, you have to wrestle with that because this show is just not for. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But just know that like this is just I'm just sharing a genuine experience that happened. It just happened to be what it was. So we're both standing there in front of JFK and. Fuck. Oh. I told this story around the campfire, and this was Janelle had she at the time she was trying to get on a regular sleep schedule, and she's like, so I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock every night, and we're up until like about 12:30 or 1 or something, and we're sitting around the campfire, and I was like, all right, I got a spooky story I'm going to share with you guys. I was like, is this too much? And both Nick and Binya were like, why eyes wide open like this, and they're like, no, that's good. That's good. You got to share that. They're like, that's fucking creepy. I'm like, yeah.
That's wild. That's that religious shit, dude. When stuff happens with religious stuff, with religious items,
it's even creepier. Like in that one from that one story about the Last Supper, that metal embossed painting, something behind. Oh man. That will make me question like, unfreaking believable.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's brutal. So if that's not one hell of a setup, let's go ahead and throw this over to our interview after this little break. We've got Nate Reynolds from Pig Jigs joining us, and man, I'll tell you what. I think there's some cool stuff on the horizon for Pig Jigs. Pay attention here to some of the stuff that he's talking about. And I'm telling you, I've been talking about some specific baits on the show that are very difficult to get. Pig Jigs may be my domestic alternative moving forward. Quite possibly, yeah. I think the biggest issue with Pig Jigs is that we're talking about true small batch custom baits. Like, if you're a dark horse tackle type customer, you're going to fucking love what they do. But get yourself a sampler box, check some stuff out, and be on the lookout for some future drops with custom rods as well. So we're going to throw this over to a break. We'll come back and have our little interview with Nate Reynolds from Pig Jigs, and we'll see you guys on the back end to talk about some other stuff. We'll see you guys. Don't go too far. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Alrighty, guys, Bobby Roast Beef out here in my favorite place. We're on the Lund, on the Implication, as you listeners have voted, is the name of this boat, the Implication. Nate, that's a little fucked up, is it? Like, do you ever watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I have seen it several episodes, I think, but not like I don't really follow. You don't follow? The whole thing.
Okay, there was that came from a very dark joke in one of those episodes.
I don't honestly, man. The guys I work with, I don't really watch a lot of TV, and they find me odd at times. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
Don't.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So, I'm on my favorite place right now. I'm on the boat. I have my buddy Paul fishing up at the front of the boat right now. He just put one in the live well, and I have the one and only Nathaniel Reynolds with us, owner of Pig Jigs. And this has been a very long time coming because I have been kind of a creeper on your stuff for a long time. And when I see folks that are fishing with it, I'm like, I got to get my life together and start acquiring some of this stuff. But you know what I've found? A lot of your stuff sells out really quick. And that means that it's really popular. Like, people like your stuff a lot. So, Nate, if you could, why don't you just tell us a little bit of your background, like how you got into fishing, sort of the road that got you up to the point now where you're actually creating tackle and really, I mean, genuinely making a name for yourself out there in the tackle industry world.
Yeah, growing up here in West Virginia, a lot of people hunt and fish. It's just there's not a lot to do. That outdoor thing is kind of what we do, and basically spend most of our free time outdoors. So I started at an early age. I wasn't I wouldn't consider myself an avid angler, but any chance I got, I would go hit the riverbank mostly. Yep. There where the Ohio River and the Kanawha meet is actually where I live. So we did a lot of catfishing. Bass fishing, farm ponds, and things like that. We've got a local lake here. So I just fished all the way up through high school. I got to college and met up with some ecotourism guys, and we would hit lakes, rivers, whatever, on the weekends and stuff. And honestly, I kind of got away from it because I was so busy with work for a while. And I started getting back into it more and more. later on down the road, about 10 years ago. And then I discovered kayak fishing. And it started a whole new thing. And that's actually how this jig business really got started. I was asking a certain individual for certain colorways for kayak tournament fishing that I knew colorways were working in certain waters. I really wasn't receiving kind of my vision, I guess. So I took it upon myself. I actually have it hanging over here, my first jig and the vise that I started with. I bought a $19 vise from Amazon. I bought 2 packages of skirts that I wanted specific, which is one of my most popular colors right now, the Truth. And then I bought a 5-pound pack of just random skirts, and I took Ziploc baggies and I put them all together. And I sit down at the vise and I would just see how they would lay out on the actual jig. I wasn't really getting specific colors that I needed, but I was like learning how the colors flow, getting the wraps down and things like that. And I work away from home. I'm an engineer for a month at a time, so I would send them to buddies that were able to fish more than me. And they're like, dude, these things are fish catchers. You need to look into it. So I would send 2 individuals, good buddies of mine, the jigs, and then we started selling here and there to people, just through like DMs and stuff. People would want orders, and I decided that we was going to take it to the next level. I got my LLC, and we've just gradually been growing since. And as of late, I'm a ultralight, starting to get in more into BFS, but I'm an ultralight fanatic. I love finesse fishing. Where I live here in West Virginia, it's just the way to go at a lot of times. I mean, you'll spend days and not have good days, but I can take an ultralight out for a fuse, take friends, and just have a blast with it. So the business has kind of shifted. We still do the regular stuff, but like this little thing right here, this is our BFS spinnerbait or whatever.
Yeah, that looks awesome, dude.
We've actually become like the ultralight BFS tackle shop. Thank you, man. Thank you. So this is the BFS spinnerbait, and it's a vice color. It reminds me of the Miami Vice scene, back in the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah, so that's sure. That's why it's called the Vice. It's got that old school neon vibe to it. And it's as crazy as it looks. I've got a buddy of mine that's in Florida right now. He does charters and has just been wrecking them on that underspin, that same collar. I've had really good success with that collar too. I know it looks crazy, but there's something to it.
It's funny you say that. You mentioned about colors, because like I was always one that was like match the hatch. And up where I am in Western Massachusetts, we don't have shad except for like the ones that are migratory in the Connecticut River. We don't really. So a lot of our color, like if you're going natural colors, you're going green pumpkin, or you're going with a perch pattern or a bluegill pattern, something along those lines. But this year, and I don't, maybe it's got something to do with the fact that this was the year I took the leap into BFS fishing, and I think you're right. Like there's something there. And we'll talk a little bit more about, fishing lighter baits and more on the extreme sides of sizes of baits. But when you're, I feel like you can get away with so much more with color when you're sized down, and I don't know, there's certain things that I have thrown that I'm like, I would never naturally assume this color would be the way to go, but here I am throwing like a smoke black and orange bladed jig, with a green pumpkin trailer, and it's just getting hammered.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain waters, like you said, we don't have a lot of shad in here, so I think when you get into those waters, the trout eater lakes and stuff like that, and the shad waters, you got to be a little bit more specific. But where I live here in West Virginia, we have some shad in the lakes, but I think our main forage, in my opinion, is more like the gills, your sunfish type of baits. And so I didn't really throw anything crazy color like that till recently. And I always have my natural colors with me.
Oh, but, for sure.
I will toss those, and if they're hitting it, I don't cut it off. I just keep tossing it.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's working, why change it, That's freaking awesome, man. So let's talk a little bit about like that first batch of jigs that you started with. Are we talking like you were making like flipping jigs, like 1/2 ounce, 3/8, stuff like that to get started?
Yeah, mainly 3/8, like swim jigs.
Okay.
Your traditional flipping jig, like an arky jig.
Yep.
Football jigs. And then I did a finesse ball jig that was, really popular there in the beginning. It was a 1/4 ounce, hand tied, had a beautiful, fluff to it when it sit down in the water. And you put a little floating trailer on the back of that thing, and we test. I would test everything, like everything that is on our website.
Yep.
Or you'll see on my Instagram page. I have tested it thoroughly. And even down to the collars, sometimes I might have to take, a strain or two of this out or find out this works better.
Yeah.
And, we were mainly just the traditional 3/8, 1/2 ounce size. And then we kind of moved over to the spinner baits and bladed jigs and things like that. So.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, I think what really kind of introduced me when you started with the BFS stuff was the underspin that you talked about. I know that aggressively average anglers had a field day throwing that underspin, and we had actually they and I had a conversation about how much more of a step up that is from something like the 6 Sense Picos. Which is just, I feel like that's just, and they even agreed, like it's too heavy. And that, yeah, exactly. Like the blade it's got some distance away from the jig, so it's not getting really hung up on anything, and you've got a variety of sizes too, and this year for me has been huge as far as BFS goes, because I had wanted to dabble for a little while, and my reason for getting into BFS was that, like, holding a spinning rod all day, like, I'm getting old. I don't know if it's carpal tunnel necessarily, but it's irritating. Like, I get this cramp in my hand, and it's especially worse when I'm using like a fluke or like a jerkbait or something like that. So for me, the idea was to put a larger reel, something in my hand that was a little bit more comfortable, or at least be able to switch back and forth to lessen the time I was spending with a spinning rod. And it worked unbelievable. But what I found is that I've always kind of had this feeling like downsizing, going to the extreme sizes, whether it's a huge bait like a big rat or throwing like something that's downsized in pressured water, just has the best sort of effect on actually turning those fish on and getting them to bite. And I've noticed that more times than not, it's leaning toward those smaller baits. So like pressured water or, just post-tournament or something like that. I go to an area where it's just getting hammered. Or what I do a lot is a lot of multi-species fishing, not just bass fishing. So my strategy with a lot of this stuff is to go to a body of water where I know that those species are, and then downsize so that they can at least eat it, so that I'm getting more fish, more catches. I open up the world of possibility there. And things like throwing like finesse spinner baits, specifically finesse chatterbaits, have been huge. Like one of the things that I want to start doing is one of my favorite methods for fishing BFS is, I call it power fishing for trout. And the Orvis boys hate me for it. They just, the fly anglers at some of these spots.
We got them around here, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm like, and I'm out there and I'm throwing like an 1/8 ounce tungsten jig with a swim bait, just covering water. Or like when they're eating that bladed jig, there is no better feeling, And I love that there's a domestic company that's making them, because like right now, the bladed jigs that I'm using, they're from Jackal. And they're not easy to find, and they're expensive. And when I saw yours, I was like, hold up. This is the move. This is 100% the move. So like, what was it that kind of got you fired up with? I know you said you like ultralight fishing. Was that it, or was there anything specific that got you into the mindset of moving into those more downsized baits to present for pig jigs?
Going back to where I live, everybody fishes. Yep. I mean, very few people do not fish, and our waters are so pressured. It's hard to get access to anywhere where people haven't been.
Yep.
And I've even tested the theory at, going behind somebody that's throwing normal baits and coming behind them with some of these finesse presentations.
Yeah.
Minutes after.
Yep.
I'll let them clear out. I'll let them do their thing. I don't touch them. I'll give it, 10 or 15 minutes, let the water die down after they beat the top with some of the bigger baits and the half-ounce stuff. And I come in and just let them do their thing. A lot of it, like with our micro jig, it's the fall rate.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen any videos on it, but a lot of times it won't even get to the bottom, and if it does, it's just a couple subtle pops and dead stick it and they pick it up and take off with it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and another thing is I love to teach young anglers to go fishing. I don't know, obviously, I believe you have kids as well, had them on the boat and stuff. They get bored very easily.
Oh, they totally do.
And they love the fact that I have, the jig business and I make jigs and stuff. And I was like, man, I need to come up with a solution as well. So kids, man, if they go 10 times, they don't catch nothing. They're going to put it down. Their interest is not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll even ask them, I'm like, you guys want to toss regular, size tackle today, or you want me to just bring the ultralights? And they're into it. They love, the ultralight fishing, and they put fish, they catch fish about every single time we go.
That's great.
And it just makes it, when I started doing the small stuff too, I wanted to create something that you didn't have to have 15 years experience to go out and enjoy hitting the waters. So these small baits, and I'll help anybody that wants to know. I need to make a video on how to fish the micro jig, but there's really no wrong way to fish it. Maybe where you're tossing it might be a little different, but you just toss it in. The fall rate, it just gets them. I mean, multi-species galore. And I've even tried, you wouldn't think a jig this size that the largemouth would be after it.
Oh, they crush it.
And I've actually been on the hunt for, going out for, say, panfish, bluegill, sungill for colorways that I do for my spinner baits. Yep. And I'm not even able to keep the largemouth off of it enough. Oh yeah. Sometimes it just amazes me that 3-4 pound largemouth are hitting this on a regular basis.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's. You also take into consideration, like, I'm sure you've got some ponds near you that are just loaded. They're just stunted population where you've got a bunch of like 10-inch bass, 11-inch bass, stuff like that. If you're throwing your typical jig setup and it's a jig bite and they're just crushing it, or maybe you're throwing around a big spinnerbait or something like that, it's not even fun trying to get these fish to come in. But if you're throwing a light or an ultralight rod, downsized stuff, super, super, super fine line, and you hook into a fish that's, 10, 11, 12 inches, it's exhilarating. It changes that population of fish from like, oh yeah, great, I'm just going to horse these fish in. I'm hardly going to even know they're on the end of the line, to now this is like an enjoyable sort of fight, And it kind of makes it a little bit more sporty.
Correct. Yeah, and it kind of takes me back to, my childhood when I was just tossing a little, the BFS is new, obviously, but just taking one spinning rod. I take a sling most of the time if I'm going to do the ultralight stuff. And, fishing these small baits, I say this with 100% confidence. Yeah. I cannot remember the last time I went fishing and got stuck. And it just makes it enjoyable. And no, I wasn't catching 6-pounders, all day long. But, I took my nephew out, one of my nephews, and he likes to get in the kayak every once in a while. I got a new one, and I kept a second one just for him and my other nephews and stuff when we go. And we managed to put 50 fish inside the yaks. That's great. Between bass, crappie, and bluegill in a day. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no possible way that he can't be addicted at this point.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
We were just not even just casting, and he's so we go out recently again, and we hit 3 different ponds in 3 hours, and we managed to catch 65 fish on these little micro jigs.
That's awesome.
So if, even the people that, that are tournament anglers and stuff, and I've got guys all over the country that fish the big baits and stuff, but
sure.
If you're looking to get kids into something or somebody, I highly suggest, just giving it a try. Even if it's not my stuff, get them out there fishing,
For sure. Now, one of the things I do want to talk about, and we talked a little bit about this last night, I'd seen some stuff and some rumblings that there were some rods on the way. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So tell me about that. Like, what's the future for Pig Jigs look like as far as, introducing rods, and what other products are you even considering dabbling in?
So I'm fortunate enough that I actually have a brother that builds rods.
Oh, wow.
So,
that's perfect, dude.
We've kind of talked back and forth.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, not too long ago, I was like, let me just buy the parts and we'll go back and forth on the design and see what we can come up with. Because I would like to have my own custom, just, kind of for myself, and maybe possibly think about, getting it out to the public.
Sure.
But our goal was, if you go to a custom, rod shop, and those guys, they put in great work, a lot of them. It's expensive.
Yeah.
So we wanted to come up with this idea that let's build the best custom ultralight rod we can at an affordable price.
Yep.
That anybody, not everybody's going to, pay for a custom rod, but if you want one, it's not going to cost you upwards of $300. So we've tried to, find the best quality products we can and keep the price low so everybody can enjoy their own custom. I actually have a couple sitting right here if you'd like me to put them up there and show you.
Yeah, absolutely. Walk me through what it is that you've got going on now, because I'm actually looking at putting together at least one more BFS combo.
So this is a 6-foot ultralight.
Yeah.
It's going to toss down to, this is the promo, it's going to toss down from 1/32 to 1/16 of an ounce. The cork grips.
I love that.
I feel like a lot of people like the cork.
I do too.
I'm trying to hit the tip there on my gun case there, but we got the logo in there, a sticker. We've got kind of like a raised handle. That way it doesn't feel straight. It's real comfortable in the hand.
Yeah.
And we've got the accents of the Pig Jigs there on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then each of the line ties has our collars in it.
On the thread.
The pink and the green. Yeah.
This
awesome. Thing is so light and so well balanced. My brother, who actually built it, I actually stopped on my way home the last time I was home.
Yep.
And took it out and tested it and fell in love with it. It casts those 1/32 ounce jigs. I usually run, this is a 4-pound braid, but I usually run 6 with a 5-pound leader if I'm going to run it. And he mentioned something about maybe fishing with it. And I was like, I'll let you cast it in the front yard if you want, but you're not taking it all with you.
Yeah.
He was like, what? Awesome. Yeah. So, but we do have, I just talked to him right before I got on here with you guys, and I have a group called Pig Nation. The first one just went out to those. I felt it was only right to give the guys that I talk to on a regular basis the first opportunity to get the rods in their hand.
For sure.
Just, for all the support and things that they've shown over the years. And after that, we've got one more to do in the group. And then we should have, if the plan goes, we'll have 5 either on the website or on Instagram.
Nice.
Soon. I know the second one will be done this weekend, epoxied. And then we're just going to make sure we have the first 5 ready to go, and we'll put them up, and then we'll see how it goes from there. We've got some other plans as far as that goes, but really just an opportunity to let people experience the custom rods and not break the bank on it.
For sure.
So this is my brother's pride and joy. He absolutely, I didn't even know that I was going to get this bag, and this is a BFS. I chose the 6-foot ultralight. It's 1/16 to 1/4.
Oh, that's
this one
nice.
actually has the exposed blank. I told him I want to go as minimal as we can on this as possible. I want it to be super light, This rod alone is under 3 ounces.
Oh, that's crazy light.
It's like this is a dark wolf. It's on here right now, a Gen 2 dark wolf.
I have one of those sitting right in front of me. That's what I use for my BFS.
Yeah, it's a great reel, honestly, for the price.
For the price,
it's
you
super
can't beat
light.
It. Yeah.
No, but we've got that Fuji reel seat on there, and then we've got the Wind grips. We did basically we tried to do a blacked out version, but still accent it with our company collars and things.
Yeah. Yep.
And just last time I was home, I wasn't able to get out too much with it because he got it done, and then I had a festival to attend and show up for. I got to go out one time. I had it posted there on my Instagram. Was able to land. I didn't have a scale with me or nothing. Perfect. So this is something to look forward to as well.
That's awesome.
I would keep my eyes peeled. So once we do the ultralights, I'm going to test this a little bit more, and then we're going to start dialing in on these things. And we have a lot of people looking forward. We're just going to do them in batches, small batches at first, because he's a one-man band. But
for sure,
that's definitely a pride of our company, and to have my brother on board with me is absolutely fantastic.
Now, I'm curious, because in the BFS world, I've run into this a lot. A lot of people talk to me about, I'm interested in getting into BFS. What should I do? And they all start, they're like, I'm going to buy the Daiwa, name whichever BFS reel. Super, super high end. And I'm like, make sure you like it before you start. Make sure you like it. Try it out. Start with something like that Dark Wolf Ultra, and figure out if it's something that's for you. And if it is, then you'll grow into it. But now you'll have another reel that you could use on something else. When it comes to rods, the one thing that most people immediately follow up with is they say, I'm looking for a one piece. Like they and it's just in the world of BFS, a lot of those rods that are available are 2-piece rods. And I tell people, don't be afraid of it. Is your BFS rod a one piece? It is a one piece.
One piece.
All right, very nice. So you heard it here, folks. I mean, they're small batch, so you better follow Pig Jigs right now so that when they are available, if that's something that's holding you up and you're looking for a one-piece rod, that's the way to go. There's a lot of people are also like that 7-foot mark, and I'm like, I'm telling you, that 6.5 foot is like right now. I'm using a 6 foot 5 inch Majestic XT, right? And it's a light power rod with a fast tip, and it's super versatile. And I can't believe how far I can cast with this thing. You give me a 7 foot or a 7'1" rod, and I mean you're launching these baits ridiculously far. There's really no need for that kind of length when you're dealing with something that delicate.
Yeah, because, I've tried to explain this to people, and everybody has their own style of fishing. But I prefer where I go, it's grassy, it's trees. I'm climbing down hills. I'm trying to get into places, and I don't really have that extra behind me because usually I'm standing on a hillside, like trying to flip it over.
Oh, yeah.
The 6 foot was perfect for my liking. The next one is a 6.6.
Yep.
So that will be. But the thing with this ultralight stuff, and I figured out is these hooks, that they're going to go in. They're super thin.
It doesn't take
and things like that. Right, but when you cast it out 40-some feet, or whatever you're doing with a 7-foot rod, I tend to find that the hookup ratio is less.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because, you don't, when you're using an ultralight rod, you really don't have that, the backbone that you would on a normal rod to,
definitely.
Cast it out as far as you want. And I mean, I'm not saying that you won't catch fish, but I feel like when you're finesse fishing, you're not trying to, it's not a thing where you're trying to cast it as far as you can. You're trying to pinpoint spots on, grass edges, rocks, trees, and things like that. So you definitely need the distance, but I feel like you'll have a better hookup ratio at the end of the day if you're, trying to get as close as you can, but you don't spook them, but yet you're not, casting a country mile to get there.
Oh, for sure.
But
no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, the one piece So that BFS, that's why we have the exposed reel handle. Like,
yeah,
I purposely put it in fish that were this big with our 164-ounce jig just to see, and you could feel it all the way through the blank. Like, that's the kind of testing we were doing. I mean, we try to put it everywhere we can, and so far so good. We're really looking forward to it.
That's freaking awesome, man. I absolutely love it. I think that's great. So let's talk about like more like your personal style of fishing. Get a little bit more antiquated with like, you as an angler. Now you mentioned that you lean a lot toward finesse fishing techniques. What's your short list of baits look like, of stuff that you're going to choose when you need to get it done?
Like if I just go out on a normal basis, what would I be taking?
Yeah. Like if it's a tough bite, like where your confidence baits lie at?
100% the micro jig. I mean, yeah. I keep going back to that. You'll have certain days where the bladed jig is just you can't keep them off of it.
Yep.
We have a little elated jig here, and my buddy here in town, Black Diamond, shout out to him. He's a great dude, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
He actually had a mold specifically made. So he lives 3 minutes down the road from me.
Yep.
He had a mold made to match these perfect, and we went with that. He went with that. It doesn't deter the action of the elated. I always have one of those with me.
Yep.
I love our BFS spinnerbait.
Those are
certain
sweet.
days, so certain days they're not chasing.
Yeah, for sure.
But I find this one right here is the gill killer. So these little things, I rarely find a time if I'm having trouble with a spinnerbait, the elated, the underspin, and things like that, chasing.
Yep.
That this little micro jig won't get the job done.
That's freaking awesome, dude. I love that, and I agree with you.
And I'll change it up too, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I laid out some stuff because I figured a question might like this come up.
Sure.
The underspin is another thing. I know you mentioned trout. We live in a trout area like crazy. So this underspin is a new thing. So not only for the bass, the panfish and stuff like that, but trout season's coming up here, and you're going to be able to put a little 2-inch swim bait on the back of this and run it up through the rivers and stuff like that. But here's a little thing I keep in
it's
my
a great
bag.
Box.
So
I have one of those boxes. It's perfect to have on hand.
Yeah, it fits perfect in my sling. So this is I'll show the shiniest one I got, but this is the pink spaz crawl.
Yep.
So I've found that I can take that same micro jig or whatever, and all I have to do is change the trailer sometimes, not even retie.
Yeah.
So give it a chance. Sometimes if they're short striking this, I may tip it off a little bit, with the spaz crawl. This is from Never Quit Fishing, another good buddy of mine that I work with.
That's
hand in hand.
Sweet.
But Black Diamond does a Helger mic for me, and this is the all black. We've just started adding the hog sauce to them, and we actually have boxes on the site. It's all of our buggy micros with these Helgies.
Yeah.
And I can take this or that the Mayfly is just a straight black, has a little crystal flash.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that or the Pond Slayer. If I'm going to pick one that I got to toss every single day, is that Mayfly.
Shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the all black.
And if you're in an area where, like, especially if you're trout fishing, like, they're just going to eat that up. I mean, bass too. God, that's a good looking presentation, dude. I feel like, for the listener, I feel terrible because I am just drooling over these baits. I don't know that this is entertaining for any of you guys, but this is seriously, Nate. Like, you have a good eye for creating a good presentation, and I think when it comes to local, these like craft bait makers, and when we run into them all the time because we partner with Dark Horse Tackle, and they're all about this kind of stuff. They're all about this small batch custom stuff. And I mean, There was a saying. I was out fishing with one of their pro staffers, Adam Blomeke. Great guy. He's from up in New Hampshire. Spent the day on the boat. We had such a good time. And the last time we were at the Columbus Fishing Expo, you know, he was saying to people that would walk in and start, you know, browsing at the inventory, he would say, he's like, you always hear two things. He goes, you got to match the hatch. You got to match the hatch. But then at the same time, you hear, you got to show them something different. And he goes, what if you could do both? Like, what if you could show them something that was natural forage for where you're fishing, but not in the same exact pattern that somebody bought at name your big box store? You know what I'm saying? Something that had that made it a little bit more unique. And I think that went a long way. And I was like looking at some of your colors and some of the sampler boxes, and that's genius, by the way. Like putting together the samplers of like one specific jig to say, try these out. You know, I think that is absolutely huge. Those must sell out fast. Yeah, dude, this is it
right here.
That's a monster. That little Helgramite, and that, like, it's a flathead jig. So, like, when it hits the bottom, it's going to rest standing up most of the time. It's going to lean toward that direction. When you drag it, oh my God.
I'm glad you said that, man. I'm not going to show it on here.
Yeah,
like because we got the hook sitting beside of me.
Sure.
And we're right on the verge. We never intended, you know, it just, things happen and they happen for a great reason, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed fishing this year more than I have in, you know, years past, just because the species that have been caught and just the amount of fish that's been caught. So when I wanted to do my first mold, that I actually, you know, got to design and things, I just got this in my hand yesterday. Something coming in the works here at Pig Jigs for this. I'm going to flip this around, man. You notice anything about this mold?
It's kind of hard to see on the zoom, but oh wait, it goes right through. What?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's. What is it about that? Are you able to do like twice the amount at one time, or is it a flow through?
Yes, sir. So I worked with a designer out of Canada there. I've been trying for 2 years to talk to people, and I know nothing about CAD stuff. I work, you know, on cat diesel engines there at work, and then I build fishing jigs.
Yep.
And I don't have any knowledge. I wish I did. I wish I would have, you know, taken some classes or something, but we got to talking, and it'll allow possibly for more production, but maybe an altercation of the same jig within the same mold, without giving too much away, really. It'll just be maybe a variation, I should say.
Gotcha.
So it'll be a 1/16 and a 1/32 ounce. Those seem to be like the sweet spots, you know, for the ultralight stuff, BFS. And you were talking about standing up. We're excited. I'll just say that. I don't want to give too much away, but we're excited.
It's funny because there are a lot of folks like in the Camp Ned rig world where it's like, you know, they're like, oh, well, these jigs, they stand up. And then there's other folks that are just like, you don't need them to stand up. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's everything is right in the right sort of conditions, in the right situation. Where I live, we have like mucky bottoms everywhere. Like, it's just everywhere you are, there's all this like dead material from trees, like all the leaves, it all settles down there, it gets nasty, and then it's just like a lot of mud. And what ends up happening is your bait goes and lays down in that stuff, and it gets entirely hidden. When, you know, it's a whole other situation if you're dealing with like a sandy bottom and your jig hits the bottom, but it can still be seen. But having that jig stand up, that end of that plastic, and if you throw a little like chartreuse on the end to kind of make it stand out that much more, that's going to aid in getting even just a couple more bites. It's a huge deal. Yeah, you got something good going there, Nate. You got something real good going there. That is badass. Total like game changer over here, but because you're in West Virginia, you're not that far from where I am. I'm going to end up dragging the boat down, and we're going to end up fishing at one point or another. So one of my favorite things to do one of my favorite things to do is to get out there first thing, super early, and then like just plan on like later in the day going and having like a late breakfast or a lunch and going to a local mom and pop. So what I want you to do is to think of like the spot that you're going to choose to either reward yourself for a great day out on the water or absolutely punish your body with when it doesn't go well, you know, because it can be either way.
Yeah. Oh, I actually went to culinary school. And I chef for quite a while before I switched careers over to the engineering side of things.
No shit.
Yeah, I'm a foodie at heart, man.
That's awesome.
Before I started this, I was trying to get my mango barbecue sauce, on the market and things. But man, living here in West Virginia, they make it rough on you if you want to mess with the food products. And
stuff.
Hell
yeah.
So we have I live in West Virginia, man. I have like 3 stoplights in my whole town. So we don't have a lot of choices to choose from.
Oh yeah.
But we do have an Italian restaurant I love just across the river in Gallipolis called Tuscany.
Oh, okay.
And they have a chicken parmesan that I truly enjoy. Usually when I've been gone all month, that's usually the first place.
That's the one.
Me and my wife will visit.
Yep.
And I like to make my own menu up, my wife says. So I get the chicken parmesan, add 2 meatballs.
Oh, there you go. That's a nice thing about a mom and pop. They're not like, oh, you can't do that. You're like, oh yeah, we can do that for you. Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm all about that. I am absolutely all about that. Yeah, I think you got something really, really good going. What are you now? Do you travel at all to fish? I mean, I know you said you travel for work, but do you take advantage if you're out there on the road and fish some other areas?
Me and my wife, we love to vacation.
Yep.
My work schedule over the last couple of years has kind of hindered it and things. But anytime we go out of the state, I have a fishing rod with me, or we'll find the water. The last trip we took was to West Palm Beach, Florida.
Oh, nice.
We usually go there. We've been there twice in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to hook up with the sailfish. Probably the best 10 seconds I've had on a rod, especially seeing it come up out of water.
Oh man!
And I was new to it. It was coming to me, and it flew slack. It got slack and end up losing it. I will be back. We talked to that guy, and we're going to try that again. But love to go down to Florida and chase the peacocks.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to my boy over at South Florida Fishing Charters, Johnny Exotic. He's a great guy, man, and I love to go down there and chase the peacocks. And we're hoping to get on some clown knives soon.
Nice.
Any opportunity that I get to learn something new in a new water, I'll go do it. We went and fished the Everglades as well. I was chasing some peacocks and some cichlids and stuff. So. Yeah, we're always looking to, I've been fishing out in Mexico and just a little anywhere we go. I like to try to get a fishing line, a fishing pole in my hand.
That's awesome. Is there like anything on your bucket list, like where you're just like, yeah, would love to fish this place?
Yeah, Alaska.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Hell yeah, brother! Yeah. Fucking A.
Yeah. So it's similar to. Where I live, as far as like chasing the trout in the rivers, but on a bigger scale, and I think I would love that.
Yeah.
Mahi is on my list. We were actually, when we went the last time, that's what we were going to do.
Oh, all right.
Like I told the guide, I said, man, let's not travel 2 hours to not know. Let's go put some fish in the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
So because he had been the day before. Yeah. Opportunistic, like I always have a plan, but I'm really easy. That's what I told him. I said, man, it's your call. Well, we went yesterday and we didn't get but one bite. All right, well, let's go where we know that,
where we can get.
So Mahi's definitely on my list. I'm definitely going back for sailfish because that was something that I would like to do. But
that is freaking awesome, dude. I absolutely love that. So now this is a question I've never asked anybody, and it's only because you've got the experience fishing ultralight and fishing BFS that you do. I want to know, and I generally have never asked anybody about like a PB or anything like that, but I want to know, what is the largest fish of any species you've caught on like super finesse stuff, either BFS or ultralight?
I would say, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, probably that catfish on accident.
Yep.
Last time I was home on my ultralight rod, the Pickens ultralight rod, 6-pound braid, 5-pound sunline leader. Damn. Just putting it to the test. I have a video up on my Instagram page, and we had been there previous the other time that we had went there, and it took me in the grass, and I ended up breaking them off. I was like, I don't know that we're going to get this big of a cat and the logs and everything he's got without. So we let that one go. This last time I was didn't get a weight on it, but I would say definitely that catfish. I mean, I think I fought that thing for a good 10 minutes, just working the drag and, watching the rod bend and letting it do its thing.
Like
trying to wear it out, but
that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of people that I'll talk to about, or I'll fish with specifically, and they see me bust out the BFS, and they're just like, that thing looks like a toy. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It catches fish, and it catches them all. But it also catches the big ones. Like, there was this one day I was out and I was throwing around basically like a micro spinnerbait. You know, it was a mule fishing bronco blade is what it was that I was throwing around. And I lost a huge largemouth. I didn't get it because I played him like a complete idiot. You know, that was the problem. I broke him off, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. I can't believe it. So in my mind already, I'm like, okay, I got to be a little bit more careful with this. Later in the day, a couple hours later, I was fishing this one big laid down tree coming out quite a ways, and I was making casts parallel along the side of it. And I know that they stock this pond with trout, but what I didn't expect was, like, you know, when they say they stock a breeder, like one of the big trout. Yeah. So I caught a breeder brown, a huge breeder,
nice,
24-inch breeder brown, giant fish. And when I fish my BFS, I use 10-pound braid, high vis braid, to a 4-pound fluorocarbon leader. And this was because I had lost that big one earlier in the day. I was like, I'm going to take my time with it, and I did. I fought it for about 8 or 10 minutes, realistically, letting it take line, letting it wear out, get it finally to the boat, put it in the boat, and I was amazed. So, like, I wish I wasn't alone when this happened, so someone else could see it and be like, holy shit. Like, I've got the picture, you know, but that doesn't show the panic on my face. Or I wish I was recording a YouTube video at the time. This is before I even got really into recording any kind of content like that. This fish was an absolute beast, and it can be done where you catch these absolute giants that you don't have any business catching on line that light.
No, I mean, that catfish, I mean, I know people that fish on the river and catch them on, you know, catfish rods that big, but this is my thing. This is the advice I give my nephews and the younger anglers that I try to teach and stuff. So when you fish BFS in the ultralight, yes, you'll catch 20, 12 inches, 14 inches, maybe some 8 inches. The big girl will come. I promise you.
Yeah.
It's not like selective to, like, when you pick up that rod, every fish at the pond or lake knows, oh, he's using ultralight, I can't bite that. Like, they are so opportunistic, and a lot of times they like to feed up on some of the bigger stuff.
Yep.
But you'll catch, 15 or 20, and then when you get that good one on that ultralight, it's a blast. It's
a whole other
just
ballgame.
When I caught that, the largest bass I've caught on the BFS rod so far was on my rod this last time home on the Vice spinnerbait, just working the grass edge here locally, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I highly advise. I mean, you can see above me, I have rods for every occasion. They go all the way across. But I don't get a lot of time, with running the business and working as much as I do and being gone.
For sure.
So I like to utilize my time, and even if I have an hour, let's go catch 10, 15, whatever.
Oh, definitely.
And hope that the big girl comes, and have a multi-species day and call it a wrap after that. It's so fun, man. I love it.
Do you?
And I hope.
Do you dabble at all in any tournaments?
I did. Kayak. That's how I got this started. I just got me an Old Town this year.
Oh, nice.
I was just fishing out of a field and stream there, and I did a lot of modifications. But I bought me a 120, so it's got the pedal drive and stuff.
Yep.
And just got my graph on it. Then added some stuff. I would really like to, not this year, but the next coming year, enter a couple more, even if it's just the monthly things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
my goal is to do it on ultralight BFS.
So we run a nationwide monthly tournament that I think you would love. I think it would be right
Nice.
in your wheelhouse. It's a multi-species scavenger hunt, is what it is. We have like 22 or 23 different species that are laid out, and we look at we took the list of like the most popular game fish, the ones that were in the majority of the country. Like there are some folks that are like, I don't have any trout here, or I don't have any this or whatever, and we may add a category that's like a wild card. So like if you hook into a drum isn't on there, but if you hook into one, you could enter it for a point. And for every different species that you catch that meets the minimum, you get a point for that, and it accrues up at the end of the month. The only time that the length of the fish really comes into play is if we have to break a tie for position. So we look at like the order of, what do you call it? We look at the order of the total amount of inches, and whoever's got the most inches caught, that's what will ultimately take that spot. It is a blast. It is an absolute blast. It's part of the reason why I throw downside stuff most of the time is for that. But I think this would be right up your alley because you can enter and, fish the way you like to fish all month long. I fish a lot. There are some months where I'm in the money. There's some months where I'm not, But the folks that are out there, and we have some like bass tournament anglers that are just like, yeah, I want to enter something. So when I hook into that chain pickerel, I can enter it. It's got a little bit of value, It can go towards something, and I think it's freaking great. Next year is going to be even better. This year was awesome. It was my first time at playing the role of tournament director. Now I kind of have an idea of like how it all works and everything, and we're just going to absolutely slay it. It's going to be fun.
Oh, that sounds like a blast.
Yeah.
I was teasing my buddy. I said, man, I'm no serious tournament angler by no means. I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But if I show up at the ramp and, probably going to be using the pig jig rods and things, and I'm using the micro stuff that I make, and then my buddies, they all make custom matching plastics and stuff for my stuff.
Yep.
I have nothing to lose, but if I can just, make an appearance and show up and have a good time and catch a bunch of fish, try to put some fish on the board, because I've fished in those tournaments, man, and they're tough.
They are tough.
So a 5 fish limit doesn't come by very often because, now these guys that get to fish these waters all the time, they have no trouble.
Sure.
But just to show up and do your thing and talk to the guys, about the waters and things like that, and do it on my ultralight stuff and my rods, I think it would be fantastic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, and what a great way to also, have a great time, but also do a little bit of like guerrilla marketing too. You're there, people get to know your brand, and if you put a couple of good ones on, it becomes conversation. They're like, oh, yeah, he's throwing a bunch of ultralight stuff, or you get one of those days where, and this is what I try to get people to understand. You get one of those days where like hardly anybody's catching a limit, or it's that tough. But if you're able to limit out and you do it with ultralight gear, that's an advantage,
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to offend anybody, but I think
we're all about
that a lot of these. So, So these tournament anglers, you know, they talk about these big baits and stuff. I think you're going to find out that a lot more of them throw a Ned rig than they're going to lead on to.
I think you're right.
For whatever reason. And I absolutely love the Ned rig, man. I mean, I've caught some of my biggest bass last year was near 6, and it was caught on my Ned jig with the Ned from my buddy here, where we're able to run that weedless. It pairs out perfect for the waters I get to fish, and I have no shame in saying it come off one of our Ned jigs and a Ned.
Oh, for sure.
Ned worm. But I think a lot of people, they don't want to tell. Well, some guys don't even want to tell you because they don't want you doing it. But
that's what it is.
You know, you get in that tournament, man. It starts to get 1 and 2 o'clock, and you got 2 or 3 fish on the board. You better get out. You better get out that spinning rod. And start finessing.
It's true. It's very true, man. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're running a little bit close on time here. I got one question left for you, Nate. That's sort of a 2-parter, and it's totally a fishing the most proud of on the water. It could be like a PB situation. It could be a situation where something went crazy and you were able to save the day. And then I want to know the story that's like the biggest. I might hit the wrong button here. It definitely isn't going to work here, but the biggest flop, like where everything went to hell and it was just like an absolute shit show.
Let me think here. Worst. I'll start with the worst.
Okay.
I mean, I always have a good time. I think, possibly the worst was maybe a kayak tournament day.
Yep.
Where I wasn't familiar with the water, but I went anyway. Never seen the water until that morning. My GPS took me to a cemetery up on a hill that was from, way back when.
Oh, okay.
I started up this road. They said it was a hidden spot, but I was like, there's no way it's like this. So I get to the water. I'm rushing. I'm already late. I push off the bank, push off the ramp, and put my kayak right out the gate. I don't know, for whatever reason. Everything went in the water. Obviously it wasn't in super deep water, but from my waist down was wet for the remainder of the day. And I did not fare well that day. I think I only caught like 2 or 3 fish. I was honestly glad to get back in my vehicle.
Oh, I believe it, man. What time of year was it?
It's probably early spring, so the water's not super cold.
Yeah, but it's cold enough.
But then it started to rain later on in that day, and that wind started blowing. So you got wet clothes on and a wet fishing shirt, and there's no sun to dry it out. It was a little uncomfortable for most of the day, but I learned a lot that day.
Yeah.
One, know where you're going before you get there.
For sure.
Make sure you are aware where you're showing up to. Plan way ahead for a tournament day, and don't ever expect the unexpected, because it will happen.
Yeah. Oh no, you're not kidding.
I thought once I got to the water I was good, and then I was picking up all my stuff, and it just took everything out of me. I'll be honest, it takes a lot to discourage me, but I just wasn't in it that day for sure.
Oh yeah, I can definitely relate, man. I've had days like that.
And I'd say the best was, I love the peacock bass. We talked about it earlier.
Yep.
And I tried for a year to get my jigs into somebody's hand and catch a peacock, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason.
Yep.
I went to Florida, talked to that guy. Usually he does, live stuff. And we fished my baits all day long. Every fish that we caught was on the pig. Really, really nice peacock. First 10 minutes in the trip. On my underspin that I had done specifically for that water, the Mayan cichlid collar. So I'd say that was probably one of my favorite fish, and I worked so hard to try to get those jigs into those people's hands, and it just didn't work out. And I told my wife on the way, maybe it was just meant for me to catch it myself. And sure enough, we went there 10 minutes, and I caught a really nice one. I actually have that picture hanging on my wall here in the bait bunker now. So
that's awesome, dude. I love that. My buddy that's fishing up here at the front of the boat just lost one. I had one shake off. Right as you were telling that story, he looks over at me. He's like, I lost that fucker. I'm like, it happens, dude. He's creating more of those want stories as we go along. Nate, this was really, really awesome, man. I'm serious. Let's make a plan and get out there and fish. We'll plan something for like next spring or something, or we'll make it happen. I'll take the implication down there. We'll make a big send of it. It'll be a good time.
Sure. That sounds great, man. I want to thank you for having me on here again and let me tell my stories and share the business stuff on here. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. That's what we're all about. It's like there's a million like corporately owned baits that you can go and buy, and that stuff's awesome. But like, it's the people that put their heart and soul into crafting something to help you chase your adventure and your dreams that we kind of have the most respect for. So like, we love what you're doing. We're big fans of it, and we're gonna. I know Joe and I are gonna go through the website and say like, okay, let's get a couple of these boxes and we'll try some. So I'm trying to get Joe into the whole ultralight world. He's a tournament guy, and he has had. What's that?
We actually just had our one of our biggest drops there yesterday, so we loaded it down again.
I saw that.
A bunch of new stuff there.
So you guys heard it first. Go over and visit Pig Jigs, and if you're looking to try out some really, really interesting and well-crafted stuff, check out Pig Jigs. Do me a favor, Nate. Mention where folks can find you, and if you want to give any shout-outs at all, this is your opportunity. Go ahead and promote yourself.
All right, man. I once again, thank you so much for having me on. You can go over to pigjigs247.com. We have everything from ultralight to your normal tackle 3/8 half ounce. We've got hats, we've got shirts, stickers.
Yep.
Also, follow us on Instagram at pigjigs247. You can DM me if you have any questions. I'll lead you in the right way. We'll get you taken care of. We just started the TikTok, so we're going to venture into that a little bit. And I'd say you'll be seeing some YouTube videos here real soon of some demonstrations on the actual jigs, presentations, and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. That helps.
Shout outs, man. I want to shout out my buddies over at Pig Nation.
Nice.
Those guys are like family to me. I greatly appreciate it. I got their a handful of anglers. I think we're up to like 20 some now all over the country. So if you people contact me and they have a question about certain waters in New York to California, Washington, wherever, Texas, Florida, we might not have the answer, but we can get you going in the right direction. And I want to shout out Black Diamond, Brad Lilly.
Yep.
One of my best friends lives here locally, does my plastics, helped me out with the pours and stuff.
That's awesome.
I want to thank him. And Never Quit Fishing. Todd over there, he's been super good to me. And we working together on some collabs that are on the website. And we've got some new stuff coming out real soon too, some new collars and things. So appreciate everybody for the support.
That's awesome, dude. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. Hey, we will do me a favor. Send me a picture of you just holding an absolute tank, and we can use it for the artwork on this episode. This is going to drop. This is going to turn around. This will drop on Tuesday. It's on our spooky episode. So we're going to be talking about a lot of like crazy areas, fishing stories where things are unexplained happened and things like that. Should be pretty good. Appreciate you, Nate. Love what you're doing, man. We'll be in touch. All right?
Yes, sir. Tight lines, guys. We'll see y'all.
Take care, buddy. We'll see you. Bye-bye. All righty, guys. One hell of a show, a jam-packed episode. It's hopefully as jam-packed as your kids' trunk or treat bags were that you, as a good parent, get to rifle through to get the best stuff. I hope that you guys have a wonderful little Halloween season this week. Lots of events happening all over the place, so we hope you guys are able to go out and get. Speaking of events, we have some events that are on the docket to be announced shortly once we get some solid confirmation lined up. We're going to be starting the party in southern Rhode Island. That's the plan. And then going from there, we're looking at Michigan, and then we'll see where we go through 2025. I'm thinking you'll probably see 3 to 4 in 2025, and I think it's going to be a really, really good one. I think we're going to have ourselves a fun time. So there's going to be fishy trivia involved. There's going to be live show recording. We're going to have some giveaways and some prizes, like door prizes, some raffles, all kinds of stuff. And, we're just going to have ourselves a blast, and it's going to be a good time. So, the thing I want to talk about here is we're in the middle of the actually we're trailing. This is the last week of the last monthly scavenger hunt tournament for 2025, and not that I think that we need to be concerned or anything about next year. I think next year is going to be amazing, but I urge everybody to get themselves a little bit fired up about the 2025 season when we start in April with the new scavenger hunt series. Are we going to have any additional species added? Well, perhaps it's a possibility. There's some potential that I might add to kind of buy a little time. I might add a wild card entry where it could be any species. You just whatever it is you caught this fish this month. It doesn't fit in one of these other categories. Throw it in there. You'll get an extra point for it. Why not? Maybe it'll make things a little bit more competitive. Who knows? And I'm also going to be working this winter on a handful of different merch items that will be available. Different designs on the logo featuring different style species of fish and a bunch of other stuff as well. I got a bunch of good interviews scheduled that I'm not even going to tease right now coming up, but very, very good stuff that I'm excited about having. And we hope you guys have yourself a good one. Joe, you got anything you want to throw in here before we wrap this sucker up?
No, man, that's it. I can't wait for... I'm thinking I can't wait for next year. We're gonna have to we'll talk about like the Halloween stuff, and we'll get those spooky stories, and we'll work on that. Maybe get that round table like we talked about.
Yep.
But
I like that idea.
No, man, I'm just excited. Hopefully I get my boat back and I'm able to find a little bit of time to get out with my upcoming week.
If you don't get it this week, let me know. Let me know when you're available, and we'll make some time.
I will.
And we'll go. And
I
we'll
will.
Send
yeah, because I gotta go try out. I gotta go get on the Lund anyway. So
hell yeah, dude, get on the implication. It's all good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, you guys go ahead. Have yourself a fan-freaking-tastic week. I'm going to go and relax and edit this show and get things going. And I got a busy week lined up, but I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to this tournament coming up at Oxbow with Northeast Bass Association. And I'm stoked. It's going to be a good time. This is the first live well tournament I've ever entered with my boat.
Ooh.
Yeah. In November, too.
You got cull tags and shit?
I don't have cull tags.
You'll probably be fine without them.
And my live well is so small.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think it's going to be tight in there for these fish. It's a good thing I'm doing this in November and not August because I think it might be a bit much. But okay. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting much of this, but it's a really, really great cause. Mm-hmm. I know some of the anglers that are already in it. Timmy Jakes, and he's like, he goes, dude, we're going to get some of the regulars that are just going to kill it, and they're going to be out there doing their thing, fishing that body of water that they fish. He's like, but it's always a good time. We're going to have a blast. I was like, beautiful. So it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking put on the muck boots and let's go, baby.
That's it.
All right, guys. You guys have yourself a good one. As always, we would really appreciate it if you can go throw us some kind of a review over on Apple Podcasts. Rating us on Spotify is great, too, but something about Apple Podcasts just does a little something for the algorithm. Right now, as we record this show, we're going through a little bit of one of these swings with listeners where we're way up over the last couple of weeks. Like, we're way up. It's all ebbs and flows in this business, and we're on one of these upward swings. So we like to try to capitalize on it. If you could leave us a review over at Apple Podcasts, that would be fantastic. As always, keep tagging us in your fish pics on social media. We try to get as many comments, likes, and shares as we can, as well as saving all these things too, because we want to allow you guys to get a little bump in engagement as much as we can. We want to give back at the same time. As always, go and check out the YouTube channels for Jigs and Bigs and American Vet Fishing. Great stuff going on there. I actually just picked up a little software platform to try to make my my videos a little bit more over the top and do some voiceover stuff and really, really kind of polish them a little bit.
Hell yeah.
We'll see what happens. It'll be kind of interesting. I'm really, really excited about it. But we will see you guys in 7 days. More Jigs and Bigs goodness. Another episode on tap. You're not going to want to miss it. Big shout out and thanks to Nate Reynolds from Pig Jigs for being our guest. We will see you next week. And like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.